Okay, three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 59 of Nerds and Words. This week, Tim is taking another break. He'll be back next week as normal. We've got a bunch of stuff to go over this week, some interesting delays, some interesting updates to some games we're already playing. We're going to be joined by Blonde Bear. So, to start it off, Blonde Bear, why don't you tell us a bit about what's going on? How's your week been, dude?
Hello. It's been pretty good. Playing BDO, grinding for the merchant ring. I'm at 631 hours, and it's my last and final piece. And I'm pretty pumped. Could happen any day now, or not for a long time.
So
There's no failsafe for that, right?
Nope. And I'm okay with that.
Oh no.
Oh
no.
We were talking a bit before the podcast about the whole failsafe thing, so we'll have to get into that. But yeah, before we do that, what about you, Potion? How's your week been going?
So I'm kind of upset with myself personally. Like, I have been wanting to stream Bless Online, and then I really have just been either demoralized when I do it, or been haven't had the right schedule for it. And so I really, my plan with this week was to stream Bless Unleashed the entire week, and I just haven't really streamed. I streamed like one time, and I haven't really worked on the music album this week either. And like, I'm just kind of mad at myself because of how, I guess, lazy I was this week. So that's the main thing for me, is really just want to try to get back on the ball, and I kind of feel like I owe that to like my community a little bit, just because like they've supported me for all these years, and I feel like, for me taking off time, I feel like I'm punishing them for my laziness, so to speak, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Still playing lots of Bless Unleashed, I guess, on a more positive note, and have been extremely enjoying the game still. I definitely am getting to the point where I start seeing it's no longer rose-colored glasses or the honeymoon phase. I'm starting to see some of the flaws with the game and stuff like that. But I mean, every game has that, right? So it's been interesting kind of transitioning to that phase where you can start seeing the game for what it is, and you can start seeing the good things and the bad things, right? So, but I've really been enjoying it still.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I definitely still enjoy logging into the game and doing stuff, but the addiction is fading quickly as I run into some of the same issues over and over again with like end game progression and the UI and some other stuff. But yeah, we can probably get into that. It does seem like those devs are paying pretty good attention, though. So we'll have to talk about the dev letter and the things they mentioned.
Yeah, I think they've done a pretty good job with that when we get into
that. Kerr, how's your week?
My week has been crazy busy. I haven't had as much time for games. So school and work started back this week, like all at once. And then we got hit by the Hurricane Ida, on Sunday, Monday, and like Tuesday was like the peak of that stuff. So we had like a bunch of flooding and like crazy weather and storms and stuff. So that kind of like threw me a little bit off kilter. I was gonna ask Potion, did you guys get any like rain and like weather from that?
So Hurricane Ida came through, and for the most part, it didn't really even bother us. Like, we got like some rain, but if you didn't know it was a hurricane, you would think it just rained for a couple days. So it wasn't really a big deal. I don't know. I hear like a lot of other places they got a lot of flooding.
Yeah, it wasn't like too crazy where I'm at, because I'm more like in the middle of Mississippi. But a lot of people at the coast, they had like people on Snapchat videos with their cars like underwater, like it's sitting on their front porch, and like everything is just like the water level is up to their car windows. So that was kind of wild to see. But like for us, it was mostly just like like standing water on the roads, like up to your shin,
Wow,
which
even that
isn't
much.
that bad. But it's still pretty good, yeah. Because like there's a lot of areas that are like kind of like a bowl around here, so like the water like really gets in and sits for a couple days if it rains really hard.
Wow. Yeah, my
Yeah.
area there was nothing. You would go in, it looked like the drainage was like maybe a foot higher or something. We didn't even have any water on the road.
That's pretty good.
I was kind of surprised because New York City actually had its like first flood in like 80 years or something like that.
Yeah, apparently there was some kind of like
New York and New
so-
Jersey are getting swamped, dude. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
they had this like we had the Hurricane Ida like superstorm kind of go through, and then like it mixed with some kind of like low pressure zone or something. I don't remember what it was, or what maybe it was like a cold front, and like pushed straight through to like New York and New Jersey. I was like, what the heck? And I was seeing like all the crazy flooding and stuff on the on like Reddit and such.
Well,
Yeah,
what
saw
was
lots of
crazy to
videos.
me is like I saw a video and the subway was literally going through like 3 feet of water, like a subway, and then on top of it there was just like it almost looked like if you could see like if you had like a tub full of water and you pulled out the plug and you just see all the water shooting out of the plug. It was like this stream of like a 2x2, water just pouring down. I mean, if anybody was there, they just swept off into the subway and just be gone. So it's kind of crazy anyway. Maybe
That's
kind of
really crazy.
maybe kind of think of how in the world they're going to drain out the subways and stuff like that. They have to have some kind of process for that, I guess.
Why do you guys all choose to live underwater? Why don't you move like higher up above the water where the water isn't?
Well, humans typically live near water because we need it to live.
Just move,
And-
forehead.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the next big earthquake over here. That's going to be our next disaster.
Yeah. You think that it's gonna be that instead of forest fires? I figured like, there's gonna be like some super forest fire that'll mess
Forest,
things
there's
up.
no forest around here, baby. It's all concrete for miles.
When's the next big like California gender reveal, right? And they just like burn half the state again.
Exactly. Oh man.
Sad because true, bro. Oh my god. But yeah, that's about it for me. Just been busy with like school and work and trying to avoid all the freaking fallout from Hurricane Ida.
For sure. Well, my week has been pretty good. I've been getting back into Final Fantasy 14, which was pretty tough at first, honestly. Like when you stop playing a game for a while and then you go back to it, it can be difficult to kind of regain your momentum.
Mhm.
And then I was at a part in the FF14 story that was just boring as fuck. But I kind of like slogged through that for a couple days, and the story started to pick up again, and started to get really good. So I'm feeling invested in it now finally. But it took me like 2 or 3 days to get back into this game. But yeah, it's just been a mixture of Final Fantasy 14 and Bless. I'm almost done with the first expansion of Final Fantasy 14, finally. So we'll be seeing the beginning of Heavensward later tonight. And yeah, looking forward to the New World beta next week. That's pretty much it.
That is right around the corner, isn't it?
It's coming up.
It is. So like what is you guys' plans for the beta? Because I know like last time like we had time to get into it and like actually progress and like figure out and like we got to do some wars and stuff, but I don't think anybody will even get to be able to do a war, right? Like not this time.
Probably not. There might be some tryhards that actually like. I mean, it won't be that hard to take a territory if everyone's on, but I just don't know how many people are actually going to log on for the 3-day beta.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm going to use the beta as a test run, is my plan. I want to run in and play the game the way I think I want to play the game. Because there's 2 different ways you can do it. Either you can focus on leveling up, and you can level up as fast as possible. Or you can actually do the most efficient way of progressing, which is life skilling the entire time. But
Right.
I don't know which one's going to be more fun. So I'm going to... Last time I spent the entire time leveling up as fast as possible, trying to get 60, trying to get that spot, and then went back and started life skilling. And I kind of enjoyed that. And so this time I'm going to try life skilling first and see if I still enjoy that as a progress. And I'm not sure. If you had to ask me, I would bet that I would enjoy the leveling experience more than the life skilling as a primary means of playing the game. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seemed that most of the boys were pretty adamant about doing some test runs for like 1K to 2K gold or something, right?
Yeah, we don't need a lot of people doing that though. We just need like a handful of people who can post up a video. Honestly, like yeah, I don't know how many people are going to adhere to the whole, speed running at the start thing anyways, but I kind of don't like that there's a beta this close to the launch. Like I get that they need to do a stress test, but I wish there was a better way of doing it. I feel like it kind of kills the hype for the launch actually.
Yeah, apparently they've been doing some like secret ones, closet ones as well, right? Like,
Yeah, they've always got like secret NDA tests going for that game, but the population's obviously much smaller for those.
Yeah,
I saw where they said that they were like majorly increasing the server cap for each server to hopefully increase stability. That's why I was really hoping. Like, I hate that it's only 3 days because one, it kind of it kind of deflates a little bit of the hype, and two, it's not really long enough for us to actually test and see if they fixed like the siege connectivity issues before launch anyway.
Do you think there's any chance that they fix that?
I think there's a good chance, yeah, because I think
Possibly.
I think that, like you said, I think it's like a very simple, like some of the new weapons are just not programmed very well, and I think going in there and just refining that that's probably just one dude going in there for like a week and just messing with it, Like I think there's a chance.
This will test like having 1,000 people in Brightwood, so we'll know if that works or not. You know what I mean? Like just all a bunch of people bottlenecked in one area, especially in the streamer servers. It'll give them a chance to test that out. But I feel like that's about it. I don't think it's going to tell us anything about Siege or PvP.
I think it's going to be pretty huge if it's not fixed, though, because I mean that is one of the main that is like probably the main draw, right? Like the aspect of controlling territory and like making your mark on the map. So
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they fixed it. It definitely. I don't know. It's so weird though, because like I know we've talked about this a lot already, but like the first war we did, it wasn't that heavily like laggy. And it was till like the second war where people really started getting in there with like the fire staves and things like that it really kind of went to shit. So hopefully it's just something like that where it's like one of the weapons or two are just kind of messing with the connectivity or something.
I hope so. I still kind of think there's a significant risk that Siege gets completely neglected and they just go hard into the theme park dungeons leveling part of the game and just ignore Siege altogether, kind of like what BDO does. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think there is a good chance of that. Like for me, since we're not gonna be able to test that thoroughly, I'm kind of thinking more along the lines of like what gear progression things that they really messed up in the preview and this last beta, and hopefully what they fixed, right? Like one example is early game crafting has no point, and so I want to know if they adjusted anything to make that more viable. Another thing is like the faction gear. Like, did they adjust the faction gear? Did it adjust its cost? Did they remove some of it? Did they change the stats?
We have some leaks about that. I don't know if you've been watching the guild Discord, but some of the stuff from the NDA test right now has been leaking, and it looks like they kind of nerfed faction gear at higher levels, but it's pretty insignificant. I think crafting's still going to be pointless, unfortunately, until level 60.
Yeah. Seems like they're like the whole thing. I think it was what Tim said that they're playing it safe, right? Like they're making changes to the game that are small, but in the correct direction. And I guess that kind of makes sense, right?
Kind of. I think the financial pressure they're under is going to be the downfall of the game. They should just delay it for another 6 months.
I honestly, I mean, even after at this point, I still wouldn't be opposed to that. I think that's part of the reason.
I feel like most people who went hard in the beta are not opposed to another delay. Like, I feel like the only people who are upset about it getting delayed didn't actually play the beta. Otherwise, you'd be like, yeah, this shit's not ready yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that part of the issue is that they probably should have just delayed it by 6 months, like you said, and then released Lost Ark earlier. Because Lost Ark, I imagine, probably got delayed because of New World and its timing.
They are claiming that it has nothing to do with New World and that it's just localization.
Dude, that makes me so angry.
Totally, yeah.
They've been localizing Lost Ark for like 3 years, bro.
7 years.
There's so much text to translate in that game.
It's not like they have like an English translated text on the Korean game already. Oh no, not at all.
Like the game's been out for half a decade. So it feels really
Yeah,
bad when
okay.
they make a bad excuse like that.
I think that alone basically sums up how the player base feels about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. The biggest thing that I'm against the New World delaying is that yes, I do agree that them taking more development time would be for the best for the game, but it's more like a thing of, do you think they'll actually fix it in 6 months when they seems to have regressed in the year that they delayed it last time, right? And that's
I
the lens that
think
I look at it
that
through.
so I think if they continued to do like somewhat open testing, it would get fixed because I think they'd actually get like overwhelming feedback about certain things like influence questing
True,
and
yeah,
faction
I can see
gear
that.
that they couldn't ignore, right? Because that's what's happened before is they do a test, they get overwhelming feedback, and then they knee jerk to that feedback. So like the staggering on basic attacks, for example, like everyone flipped out and so they removed it from the game. Or having shared cooldowns across weapons, everyone flipped out, they removed it from the game. But that stuff was there for a long time until the tests were public, and it took the public tests and a bunch of like streamers and YouTubers going freaking out before they actually listened. So I feel like if there was more public testing, then yeah, they would actually fix the game. But if it was 6 more months of private testing, I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, that's fair. Actually, I think that's pretty true because I don't think the game's made any major changes based on the private testing that they've done so far. It hasn't really been like one time where they've done
Other
that.
than completely yeeting the
Yeah.
PvP and making it obscene. Yeah, forum feedback. Yeah, it feels like a lot of the major changes to that game come from just knee-jerk feedback rather than the devs figuring out for themselves what makes the game fun.
Hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I don't know, like, how many times can you play through the same game preview before it's just enough, right? Like, I think we're getting to that point where we've had the preview, we've had a beta, we're having another beta. I'm gonna play the game 3 times before
Yeah,
it's
that's
actually
why
out.
I feel like this test is killing a lot of the hype, man. Like I wish I didn't even have to do it because I feel like it's just going to make the launch even less fun.
Yeah. I think the timing for it is great as far as timing goes, but yeah, I feel like the reason they're doing this is probably for the wrong reasons. They probably got feedback saying, "We would love another beta since you delayed it," and they're like, "You know what? We can do that, and we can test the XYZ." And I just think they should have just kept their mouths shut and put their heads to the ground and grinded out 2 months and fixed as many bugs as possible.
Yeah, I think it really is mostly just about server stability. I don't think they're looking to get much more gameplay feedback out of this test. I think they really are just trying to get as many people to log in and stress the servers as possible.
I don't think it's gonna work though. Like, I don't know. I imagine the majority of our boys aren't going to even try it, right? Because
Right.
it's like 3 days isn't enough to actually try the stuff that the hardcore people want to test. So I don't know.
Yeah, the main thing that I just want to see, like if there was anything I would like just hop on and kind of see about it, I just want to like kind of gather around for a little bit and see if we have that weird delay on like picking up stuff and like bushes and stuff that we were having pretty heavily the first couple days of the beta. And I guess that was just because of like the overwhelming population of players or something, right?
Right.
So like I want to see if that's been addressed and if that's gone. But as
I
far as
think
like
they want to see that
pushing,
too, right? I really think
yeah,
that's the whole point of the test is just to get as many people in the starting areas. That's why it's only
yeah.
3 days. They just want everyone in Windsward and Brightwood. And then it's like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense from like a stability standpoint, and like I think they have the most writing on making sure that the servers feel good, right? Because they're Amazon, and their main money source from this will be selling that they have good game servers. And so people are like, oh my gosh, I can use Amazon servers for games. That's I think their goal here is they want to convince people of that.
Then they should have made both games happen at the same time.
No, they were never going to release them both at the same time, dude. They're just
It's
cannibalizing their own.
it's fantastic for people that wanted to play all the games. It's horrible for people who are only interested in X or Y game.
Maybe that's why they're delaying Lost Ark. That's the only option it could be, is they're trying
It's
to convert it to run on
yeah.
Amazon servers.
That and just the fact that WoW's got a patch coming up, which is kind of ridiculous to even count that. And then Endwalker and yeah.
It is a congested time to release a game for sure.
I don't know how many. I guess Endwalker release was pretty close to Lost Ark, kind of, because they were saying what, like end of November, December for Lost Ark. I guess if that had happened, people would still be kind of playing Endwalker, but I don't really think that was ever going to pose a major threat to Lost Ark.
I don't think so either. Very
Like
disappointing.
Final Fantasy just has like a really diehard
Very
fan base
specific
at this
audience.
point. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if like someone that's gonna play Final Fantasy is gonna play Final Fantasy regardless of
Mhm.
like what game is around. At least that's what I kind of have picked up on from the people that play
100%.
it and like playing it a little myself. Yeah.
Right, and they also will go and play something else once they're done with that expansion. So yeah, I think releasing Lost Ark 3 months after Endwalker is perfect.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
For those people. For those players.
If what they worry about is capitalizing on the most amount of players, then yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what do you want to get into?
You guys want to get into just tackle the global lab stuff a little bit, right? I know it's kind of be a little hard to discuss because, like, Moreland hasn't, like, he can't really chime in. Or we could tell him a little bit of the stuff that they changed with Warrior and kind of see what he thinks about it from that. Like, an outside.
I saw the video.
perspective.
Looks interesting. Definitely looks flashy.
So Global Lab, they had a Ranger Awakening rework, Warrior Awakening, and Warrior Succession. And I think that is it, right? They did those three.
Yeah, they did Ranger Awakening and Succession and Warrior Awakening and Succession. Yeah, they did both.
I'm not.
And they're planning on reworking like 17 classes, right?
All classes up till Archer, including Archer. Yes.
Okay. And so how did it turn out? How much of a rework was it? Did they just juice up like 3 or 4 skills and kind of leave everything else the same, or did they actually go through and like clean up the whole tree?
There's a lot of changes, like a lot of changes. They did some things where they like tweaked old skills. Like, for example, they added like an evasion shred onto Solar Flare, so Solar Flare can get up to 15% evasion shred with it's like 12% plus the 3% add-on. And then they gave Awakening Warrior like an AOE group DP buff to everybody, the one that Succession had. I'm trying to think of some other stuff off the top of my head that they did with it that was new.
Like, I haven't seen any of the gameplay for Ranger yet, but like, it didn't seem like it fundamentally changed the class, right? It seemed like it just like made everything combo more smoothly. If that makes sense.
I mean, they want to bring everything up to like what those 5, 6 newer classes are.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
So like they just want to kind of juice them out, like Moreland said.
Yeah, I
Have
mean,
you
just adding
guys-
like evasion shreds and stuff to skills isn't really that big of a deal, right? I think it's more about if the classes feel more playable and more responsive and less FPS dependent. Does it feel like they're actually making like that level of change, or are they just tweaking numbers?
I didn't personally play it, so I can't.
So
say.
they got rid of the super armor gap between grave digging and slashing of the dead, right? So they got rid of that. So there's no longer like a gap
Okay,
in
awesome.
between that.
So if you're a bad warrior, you're safer now.
Well,
Yeah.
I think like
What
the
else?
main thing that they're doing here is they're making it where it feels more smooth to play, right? When you pick up a new class, especially like Sage, everything just kind of rotates into itself, right? And I think that's what their goal is with this rework, is they're trying to make the old classes feel like that. And it looks like that when you look at the gameplay of it, right? And looking at the Ranger gameplay, it looks like that's what their goal is. But without being a master of the class, you really want to be able to know, or being a new player, right? And I'm not really a master of either one of those classes, and I'm not really a new player, so I can't tell you if the goal they're trying to accomplish is actually being done. So I'm interested to see. Like, I want to watch Anfield and see what he has to say about it, because I'm sure you'd have a pretty good take from at least a veteran perspective.
So I was watching the Value Pack podcast earlier, and they had Biceptimus on there, Sony, and they had Flannels on there. And both of them were like the Ranger and Warrior who won one of the tournaments, right? And they kind of were like they were kind of like giving their feedback and talking about how like they gave them the things that they asked for and the feedback that they sent, and that they both seemed really happy with like the turnout and the changes that they've done. I can't really weigh too heavily into Warrior and Ranger because it's like two of the classes that I personally am not super like interested in. But I mean, they seemed really, really happy about it. So,
Yeah, it looks cool from the preview. I mean, my guess is that they are essentially just turning into the classes into more of the video mobile versions. But I'd have to actually try to confirm that. But that's my suspicion.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, the BDO Mobile, just in general, you can tell that BDO Mobile learned from a lot of the mistakes of the PC version, and it's just everything's more like streamlined and simplified on mobile. And I think on PC, especially like with some of these really old classes, there's just so much bloat, so many pointless skills. Like if you look at the pre-awakened warrior tree, I mean, half of it can literally just be taken out of the game and no one would notice. So I think if they can streamline that so that, a new player can actually navigate that skill tree and, not have to watch 13 different guides about what to do, then that's ultimately the goal.
so they
And of course,
like,
that's probably going to upset like some of the veteran players, right? Because they're going to be like, "Oh my god, they took away my cancel that I use once out of every 30 combos. They dumbed the class down." But in reality, like that's probably what needs to happen for the larger population.
I put a clip in the. Ooh, whoa, my thing fell. I put a clip
Gar,
in the.
are you okay?
I'm alive. Dude, I put a clip in the Discord about Warrior's movement. There's been a lot of people like complaining about how super buff they made the movement on the global apps. And look at that clip. He's like crazy fast now. Like he's already fast, but they added him like a new dash. And his movement is pretty crazy. Let me fix this.
I guess what I'm curious about right now is, do you have hope for like Tamer, right, being fixed in a way that you would find enjoyable? Or like Blomberg, do you think like they're going to fix Berserker? Like, do you have hope they're going to fix Berserker in a way that you would find enjoyable after seeing these updates? And I think that's why a lot of people, because
Yeah.
a lot of people don't play Ranger or Warrior, right? But they want to know, is the class that they play, is it going to be good after the rework, right? And like this kind of gives us like a perspective on that. What do you guys think?
What is this clip? Just the guy running away from him?
It's
After he kills him?
basically showing it's basically just kind of show like how fast Warrior's movement is after with the addition of the new dash they gave him.
Huh? I don't know. It looks like how Suck
But it's hard
Warrior always
to
looked.
Yeah, I'm gonna give me a second to pull up the clip.
I'm trying to find the name of the new dash that they put in.
I mean, Warrior, particularly Suck Warrior, already had like crazy ability to chase. It was just all unprotected. But I mean, you could charge and thrust into Solar Flare and catch someone from outside of render distance.
Well, it seems like there's like a little lag going on in the start of that clip, also.
But yeah, there's pages and pages of stuff on there. I think it's interesting. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people are worried about is just making it so that like their class doesn't lose the feel more so, right? Because like obviously it's good. Obviously, a lot of people like the skill ceiling and the complexity of the original classes, and like that you have like the feeling of full control in your character and you're switching back and forth between two kits. But it is kind of outdated in the sense that all of these new classes that are coming out can just stay in one like singular like kit. Like they don't have to switch back and forth as much, especially with like Nova and Sage and things. And like they just completely out damage you by not having to do as many cancels as you do and as much mechanical expression on some of the older classes, right? And so I think these changes are like changes like this are going to be really good in terms of like kind of bringing the power level up on some older classes. It's just hopefully they don't lose what makes those classes what they
Now, when you say
are.
power level, you're talking about PvE or PvP?
Probably. I mean, I'm more speaking like PvP because PvE is kind of whatever, I guess.
That's fair.
Like PvE, it's really like a class by class basis, right?
I just don't think this is going like I don't know what problem they're solving, right? I think this is a fine update, and I'm sure it'll make the classes a little bit more fun. But I just don't see what core issue they're trying to fix, right? Like,
I think when it comes to warrior, there's a ton of issues that need to be fixed. But the problem is, I think a lot of like legacy warrior players don't want a lot of these issues to be fixed. But I mean, particularly with Awakened Warrior, you have a spec where like so much of it is just based on like playing in optimization mode and doing everything you can to try to get your FPS up. And like a lot of the cancels and stuff, I just think that there's a very small percentage of warriors who can play the class to its full potential for a variety of reasons, and most of the player base cannot, whether that's mechanical limitations or FPS limitations or literally just latency. Like that class plays so differently on the top 1% as it does on the other 99%. And I don't think from a design point of view, that's something that the devs are going to want, right? They're going to want for anyone to hop on Warrior and feel like they're doing great. And I don't think that for most players, it feels that way.
And I think that's one of the biggest things they're trying to change, right? Changing the need to do so many cancels and swap back and forth between specs and like the amount of micromanagement. Whether that's a good thing, I don't who knows, but I mean probably, right? I guess it just comes down to the age old thing where it's like, do you balance based around the top 1% or do you balance around the average player?
Yeah. I think they're eliminating that, right? By making everything so that you don't have to do these animation games, so you don't have to have crazy FPS, that everybody has a standard set. Because I mean, this is also like the Xbox version of abilities and everything, right? So they are trying to like standardize everything so you press a button and it does a function. Not you press a button, animation cancel 4 times, roll over. Some players are too slow for that kind of combat. Right?
Well, yeah, and I mean the animation canceling, like I think people can, for the most part, learn how to animation cancel if the inputs are consistent and if it's not tied to things like FPS and latency. But the reality is, in this game, a warrior combo, that's why people use the E buff before so many of their combo. I mean, there's other reasons too, obviously, but that extra attack speed makes it so much easier to execute all these cancels. And if the game was just responsive and did what the button that you pressed, regardless of what kind of rig you were using or what kind of ping you had, then it wouldn't be a problem. But people can feel the inconsistency in their combos.
I think this is what it is to eliminate that, though, too, right? And it also addressed the concerns that the winners of the tournament had about the class.
Yeah.
Kind of doing it all in one go.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me that they are asking the winners of the tournament this still. We talked about this in the past, but it just seems a weird way of setting the criteria that you have to meet to be a good feedback person,
Oh, this winner listened to the guy moving his V, so he's definitely really good.
Yeah.
Gotta know his feedback. Okay, sure.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like, what do you like? I don't think every class has an issue though. I think that's a very limited issue to like maybe, like what Valkyrie and Warrior. Those are the only two that I can think off the top of my head that 100% have this issue. I mean, obviously, all classes have some benefit from higher FPS.
I think they want to like. I mean, it's not even just that. I think they want to just make every class like a 4-button roto, but also fun, but also not make it uncomplicated in a sense, right?
Yeah, I think. I mean,
Guardian of Fire.
how much complexity should each class have? Like, should you be
Yes.
able, as a new player on a class, to just figure out the best combo by experimenting for an hour or two? Or should you have to play the class for weeks and weeks and do research and
To
practice
master
different
it.
cancels and watch video? Like, how much complexity is the right amount of complexity for a game like this? Because obviously that's going to be so different from one player to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, I think they probably want things to be more simple so that people can just hop on, figure the class out, and have it feel good right away. There's some classes that don't feel good for a long time, right? Like when I was trying to play, I don't know if it's different now, but when I first played Awakened Sork, that class feels not too good until you have someone explain to you how to play it. Like you can't just
Still
open
is
up that
that way.
kit. Yeah, you can't just open up your skills and read them and then have some idea of what to do. You're fucking lost if you do that. You have to have someone explain it to you, or you have to have weeks of practice.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that if you make an entire game, like we've seen it already in the past, where like if you make a game too simple, it's just boring. And right now, that's sort of what BDO is, right? Like in the grinding sense of things, like it's just grind, 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 buy your item, and that's the most efficient way of doing it. And if you enhance, like unless you really know what you're doing, right? You're really hurting yourself every time you enhance. And I feel like that, the reason that is a problem now is because they've made grind spots, you know, I guess sort of like Dynasty Warriors, or what do you call it? Like where you just like zoom through and kill everybody super fast, right?
Right.
And it's not really any thought you have to go into your combat, right? You don't have to think about like what kind of build do I need for here, what kind of like food do I need to run, like like everything's been boiled down, food, elixirs, everything's been boiled down to this simple element, and so all it is now is just grind, grind, grind. Um, and I don't know if making classes simpler across the board is the best decision. I do think there needs to be some classes that are challenging, so that so those niche audiences have something to play and enjoy, and they can feel like I play this class because I'm the best, and maybe they're not really the best, but they get to feel like they're the best because they're playing a hard class.
It's just about kind of getting that balance, right? Because it's like it's one of those things where it's like you have these classes that are difficult, and if you got rewarded for playing that class at peak performance, it wouldn't feel so bad. But it doesn't matter how peak like you perform on some of these difficult classes because you'll still get outperformed by a Nova, Witch, Wizard, Sage, something like that, who's just pressing a couple buttons just because they're much simpler and have much more output with less effort, right? So that's the problem, or that's one of the like balances you gotta find.
Sure, but is that like a problem for reworking classes, or is that a problem for just a balanced team to balance out the game better? Right, and I think that's where
True.
there's a debate to be had there. I don't know which one's the correct answer. So, and again, kind of leads me back to like the core of why I'm confused is because like I don't for Warrior I see the animation cancels, for Valkyrie I see animation cancels because they're just way over the top that like 99.99% players just can't even enjoy the class, right? So I understand those two getting reworked, but for the other ones, I'm still as a question mark. What are they trying to fix? You know, like what's going to be what are they fixing here that's going to make people want to come back to the game and play it more? And I just can't think of what that is aside from Warrior and Valkyrie, and maybe Tamer. Tamer needs a lot of love too.
I think that just making your class feel better in a lot of chances will just make the game more enjoyable for you. Because like for example, like let's say you really enjoy really love Musa, but the class has been shit for so long. I mean, they magically make the class not dog shit, and I guarantee you, a lot of people that like Musa would have the feel or the drive to play the game again, even if they haven't changed a lot of the game's core problems. Because nobody wants to feel like their class is bad or that they have to play another class just to keep up, right?
Yeah, but I mean, in PvE, classes are close enough, right? And in PvP, I don't think these changes are going to fix it because they're not fixing the super armors or iframes or CCs or too much healing or too much burst damage. So, like, I don't think any of the, like, no matter what they do, unless they give Musa a grapple, aside from that, That's the only thing they could do right now to make Musa not feel garbage in a rework, right? He's still going to feel the same he does right now.
Could you
So
imagine Musa with a grapple?
that would be
Be
the thing of
the
nightmares.
most terrifying class in the video game.
I don't know, dude, because like I mean, there still are some massive gaps between some classes in PvE. Like comparing like a Suck Lawn or Striker or Nova or something like that to like Musa is just like, like those kind of that. Well, and obviously that's like probably the biggest gap that you can find. But I mean, those gaps are still there. It's just that with the recent changes they did a couple months ago, they did bring up the average like middle of the pack right up a
Mhm.
bit slash closer to that, but you still have a couple of those like outliers. Um,
I
I don't
I
know.
I figured out how I can say this makes better sense. They are doing a quality of life changes. This feels like a quality of life changes across the board for all classes, but the game doesn't need quality of life changes right now, right? I mean, it does. Like it's always nice. No one's going to ever complain about quality of life changes, but that's not going to fix BDO's core issues, right? And I think I guess that's what's bothering me about it. It's just not a reason for me to come back to the game. It's just something nice that if you're already playing the game's just a little nicer to play.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling as well. Like I'm looking at the warrior changes, and some of those changes, especially to Suck Warrior, it looks cool, and I'm sure if I came back, I'd have fun playing it. But I would have the same amount of fun that I had when Awakened Sage came out, or when Suck Hosh came out. Like I would have fun for a week, and then I would be right back into the same loop that I was in before, with the same gripes that I had before. Like, yeah, a new class is fun, and they're overall, I think they're getting good at designing these new classes for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, how many times can you give me a new class before like the magic of that just kind of wears off? And really, a rework to an old class is not that much different than just releasing a new class. You log in, there's some new skills, there's some new effects, there's a new flow to your grind rotation or whatever. There's some new tricks you can pull off in PvP, and then that's it, right? Like at the end of the day, it's the same stuff you'd experience when a new class comes out, and new classes already come out every 3 months, and now the old classes are also going to feel new. Okay, cool. I don't want to play a new class every couple weeks or every couple months or whatever. Like that's just not what the game's missing for me.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense when you think about like what have they been doing for the last couple months? Quality of life changes over and over and over and over and over again. And so it makes sense that this change is not focused on fixing the game. It's focused on another version of quality of life, just a bigger scope, so to speak. So I guess I shouldn't be really surprised. I guess on the surface level, I was kind of hoping it would be something more for the game because it gets me excited when I hear like, oh my gosh, it sounds like what is that? Reworking all classes up to Archer, including Archer, like that sounds great, you know. So it gets me kind of excited, but I guess at the end of the day, it boils down to still being quality of life, right?
I would say that if they manage to fix the FPS imbalances on Warrior, that to me goes beyond quality of life. That is a fundamental like S tier fix that the game has needed for years. So if they actually manage to get rid of the FPS equals DPS issue for Warrior, that is fundamentally an excellent, like, praiseworthy change. But I'm just kind of skeptical that that's actually going to be the outcome here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably going to do just as good of a job as they did on Sage, right? Sage still FPS equals DPS, but it's just not near as exaggerated as Warrior is. So I could see them. I think I could see them fixing that for sure. Like I think that's on the table. I mean, not 100% because it's the game engine that's the problem for that, right? Not the class, but I think they can make it where it's a lot less noticeable for sure. And they said that's their target issue.
I don't know. I personally like that they're going back and reworking older classes and kind of modernizing them, because personally for me it's like when like I don't know, when Timber was just absolute dog shit in PvE and you're just like pushing yourself to barely make the bare minimum that the majority, like 90% of the other classes can do, it just makes the game overall doom and gloom, right? But then like when they finally made it not shit in PvE, that just kind of added like a breath of fresh air and just made me not feel like I actually fucking hated myself for playing what I enjoy and trying to have fun in a game, which is what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
And I do agree that I do agree with you guys in the sense that like they do have some like core issues that they need to fix. They need to like because like the entire game is the pursuit of gear. It's like what they need to add stuff to do with the gear, right? Like what is there to do with the gear? What is the purpose of getting the gear? So I do agree that they do need to address that big time.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping like the addition of these other dungeons and then maybe this other stuff that comes out with like the endless underwater like tower type thing and
I
stuff
am
like
waiting
that
for
if it
that.
ever comes. But
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that if that ever comes out.
yeah,
So I guess shifting gears here a little bit. I know Moreland is currently taking a break because the game isn't, until they're getting fixes some of its more core issues, or gives them something interesting to come back and do. But for us, like, what classes are you wanting to try out after the rework? Which ones are you considering? I assume Kerr, you're trying Tamer, and but is there anything else?
I'm really curious to see what they do to Musa Mewa and Kuno. Those are the three that I'm most interested in personally. Just because I remember back in the olden days where those three classes were like you would see them all the time, but that's like a very long time ago.
Kuno Awakening could be
And
really fun if they do that right.
yeah, like I remember the days of like Kuno Awakening where it was like if you saw a Kuno doing lethal spin spree, you're like, oh shit, get away. But nowadays it's like if you see a Kuno doing the spin, it's like, oh, easy grab. So like I'm really interested to see like how they kind of like change that because for the longest time, Kuno's just been a worse ninja, right? Ninja's been
Mhm.
better in every way. Cause like, I mean, Ninja had the trade off and caveat that like at one point, it was okay that he was crazy strong in like pretty much all forms of PvP because his PvE was so bad, but they actually made him pretty good in PvE back in like May. So it's like there isn't really that trade off, and he's just kind of better in every single way. So I'm curious to see what they do to Kuno. I'd like to see them give her some love. And then like even for like Musa Mewa, try some simple things like make it so like I'm a big advocate of them making it so that when chase is used off cooldown, cleanse any slows you have on you. Because it's like you have two classes that are based around mobility and speed, but they're not even like very fast anymore in the current scale of the game. They like used to be fast. They're like an Olympic runner that became like a chain smoker. So now they're really slow. They can't really keep up anymore. So I'm curious to see how they make that like bring that element back into the game outside of just like power creeping it and making it as fast as like Nova
Yeah.
is and such.
Blonbear, what about you? What I assume kind of you're playing some Berserker, but what are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept of the changes because like catching up classes is important, and also just like because this game is also being made for like the Xbox version, so everything's based around that. I mean, my personal opinion on Zerker is that like ever since mouse movement was a thing, they've had to balance the class around that. And I think that if there was no mouse movement, the Zerker would have gotten a lot more buffs and been more protected and stuff like that. But because the protection of the class is based around the maneuverability of mouse movement, which not everybody is as agile as the next guy to be able to do that, it makes the skill ceiling like incredibly high for Zerker. So it's personally, I just don't like playing it that way. I hope it gets like the Guardian treatment where it's a lot slower, but it's more protected and there isn't any mouse movement to be manipulated in it. Personally, whether or not that does or doesn't happen, like it's not going to change my opinion. I'll probably still play Succession and it'll probably be a little bit more fun, which I mean, the quality of life they did to Zerker Succession before was already just super fun. PvE wise, I mean, even in PvP, it's actually thematically really cool.
Wait, you think Lava Piercer shouldn't have mouse movement?
I just like the idea of mouse movement in general because it's just like manipulating like animation cancels and different stuff like that. I think that the ability should be able to do the ability thing, and that's like I don't know. It's because it's created an artificial ceiling, right? Players have to now try to learn that gap when that wasn't even intended in the first place, right? If they intended for the skill to work like that, and that's how the class is balanced originally, then fine. But it wasn't originally balanced to be able to perform those functions, and that's made the class frustratingly hard to balance for them. So like the only thing they've received in a long time is like a very small reduction in our one iframe every once in a while, which is part of our key movement anyway, so it's literally useless. And also just the one shot ability in Awakening now, which is like kind of a meme because it's like it's nice, but it's like now everybody's like, what do you mean Zerger's OP? You could just one shot, just use this one ability, the one shot ability. It's like,
That's not really
okay.
interesting. Yeah.
Like it's just boring conversation for it. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do for Zerker, whether or not it's gonna be good or bad. I don't have a clue. And then when it comes to other classes, I don't know. Right now I'm currently playing Alon because I've been doing Crypt and Olin's grinding, so it's really good for that. But if they rework everything and everything's good at every spot, then I don't know. I might want to play something more thematically fun, something with cool outfits. Like I like the new wizard outfits, so I've been thinking about tagging that, but I don't know if I'm gonna play it or not. It really depends on what the changes are.
I guess for me, I'm thinking about Meiwa Awakening and Ranger Awakening. I enjoyed Ranger Awakening a lot already, and so if they somehow manage to make that better, I'd be very impressed. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that feels like as far as PvE goes. And for Meiwa, I always liked the kit, but it's just spacebar spam right now. And so if they can figure out some way to make it where it's not spacebar spam anymore, and you can actually use some of the other cool abilities in the kit, but I have to see how that plays out. Mora, is there any class that you're interested in seeing what the rework is other than Warrior, I guess?
No, not really. I mean, I spent a bunch of time on Kuno and Musa and Wizards over the years, but I don't know, man. Like that with the direction that they're taking these reworks, I don't know if any of those classes are going to get fixed. I guess Awaken Kuno might end up being fun again, but I mean, I think the Warrior rework looks really good. Like if I was going to come back and play something, I'd probably play that. I don't know if I have my eye on any of the other classes really.
Yeah. All right. Now this is the juicy topic. Whoa. We touched on this at the beginning a little bit. Infinite potions have been reworked. So people really don't know, the TLDR on this is that you can now get failsafe items for when you go and grind a grind spot, and if you get 100 of those, you can combine them into the item. It basically works like the Flame of Despair for Olin Valley, and on top of that, you can upgrade your potion from like a tier 1 infinite potion to tier 2 infinite potion to tier 3 infinite potion. So if you get one potion piece, you can make like a baby infinite potion, which heals you for like 150 HP or something like that infinitely. And if you upgrade again, it goes to 200 HP. And if you upgrade it to its final form, it's the regular infinite potion that you're used to. And there's something else in there that they did as well. But the debate on this is this actually good for the game in its current state? And like, do we like this change or not? So Blombear, what is your opinion on this? I think that'll get us into a good start.
Well, what Moreland said before we started was actually, it kind of rang true, and I've had a lot of people ringing my ear about this. I don't think it'll personally change my personal choice on it because I don't know. But like every person ever in existence is always going to say, "Well, Blomberry, you have no perspective. You've always been lucky, so you have no idea what it's like to do anything ever in the existence of any video game in your entire life." So the conversation's not gonna really be too fulfilling. But Moreland brought up that if it was already in the game naturally, then it would be fine. The fact that they're like adding it post is what alters it, right? Which I accept and I get that. I just think that, like, when you play a game like old school RuneScape, there are rare items that drop off of bosses. You could kill a super rare boss like 6,000 times and probably not get the one rare item you want. Conceptually, I like that system. I like rare item grinds. That's why I'm grinding for one literally right now, and that's like my main thing that I'm working on. I don't know. I don't like the idea of pity systems or anything like that. I guess already in an established system, I don't know if it's. I mean, I've just been
Okay,
talking about
so
this
here's
nonstop. So it's like,
here,
I
yeah.
just.
So here's what I want to know. When it comes to pity system, you say you don't like pity systems. Um, what if the pity system is 100 times worse than the average RNG of getting the item? You're still
And
against it?
yeah, I think that if the pity system is long enough to be like, well, you've definitely gotten to the point where you would have gotten it, or this is just a failsafe, like because people say failsafes, but then they think, oh, I need a failsafe for my potion, grinds it, and 20 hours later they get their potion. That's what people think an adjustable failsafe is, right? Like that's like I've seen people that say, oh, I grinded for 20 hours for the pot and I don't have it yet. Man, this is a really crappy grind. It's like, really, 20 hours is like that's your limit. Whereas, like, I'm 600 hours deep in this Olin's grind, and I can go another 600 and probably still not see it, and I'm okay with that. I think that having the right adjustable amount's tough, but like naming a specific number or hour or thing is weird too. And it's difficult because once you say that it's X amount of hours or X amount of this or that, you're basically making it like a quest or a daily, right? I mean, it's not a daily, but it's basically a daily or an hourly, and that's what kind of killed World of Warcraft and Arcade is like the massive amount of just dailies and free content that they give to players, or well, content, the free gear and items that they give to players is like, to me, and a lot of like hardcore players killed the game.
That's a really good example because with you not knowing it could take 2 hours or 1,000 hours, right? That gives an allure to it. But if you get one piece on average every 3 hours, you can mathematically do in your head, oh, it's 300 hours to get the piece that I need. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to be here for 300 more hours. And then with that in the back of your mind, it makes it almost discourages you from continuing because you're like, wow, I have such a long time to go.
I mean, not even just a long time to go. It's like that it's predetermined, so it's not rare.
Yeah.
Because it's predetermined, there's no, oh my god, I got it. It's okay, I got it because I did the thing 300 times.
So this is actually a way more interesting take than what we were saying last week, because you're not necessarily talking about the failsafe in terms of luck versus bad luck or anything like that. You're literally talking about the mystery of the item and like
yes,
just
if they created a failsafe and
a
didn't say
finite
anything,
clock.
if they created a failsafe and didn't say anything, I would be 100% okay with that. The fact that they've addressed it, said it, and said that there's a failsafe, like if we, for the Orzeka outfit, if you collected like an invisible amount of leaves, that would be okay, right? And then eventually it just dropped a lung in your inventory, like I would be okay. It's the illusion of not knowing that holds so much power to a player in a video game. And the illusion that like, oh, I'm still progressing, I'm still working on it, but it's still random. The falsehood, the illusion is what carries everything, I think, entirely. Personally.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess you could really feel that when you go to like Olin Valley, because if you go to Olin Valley, like you have like for you, for example, like I got my flame right away, and you had to grind out all 100
Oh,
of
we
your
went to
embers.
Turos. Yeah,
Yeah,
You're
Turos.
3 hours deep into
Yeah,
the 30-hour grind. Potion got his
Yeah.
flame, and I was like, "All right, I'm next." I
Yep.
had to get 100 embers after 40, 30 hours.
And so
But
then,
I was okay with that. I went in knowing that was going to happen, right? I think
Yeah.
that changing it after it's already introduced is really, it demotivates every player that's ever gone for it, and it's it's like, I don't know. Some players don't like having to deal with a pity system either, where it's like, well, I didn't want a pity system. I wanted to quote unquote earn it like somebody else. Then there's the argument that like, oh, well, if someone gets it in 3 hours, did they really earn it? People are like, doesn't that make you feel bad if you had to grind 100 hours and they only had to grind 3? It's like, well, not really. I don't personally believe that. I'm sure someone will believe that, but I don't personally believe that. But I also like, I have the thrill of the hunt for these rare items. I mean, I have every rare item in the game. I'm going for the merchant ring. I also want to go for the Elvied, which 90% of players don't even know what that is in this video game. And it's just like, that stuff excites me. That's a goal that I love pushing for. Just like if I was probably into RuneScape, I'd probably love doing the kill count bosses and getting all the pets, doing all the collectibles. And I wish that this game had more content similar to that. That players could enjoy with their gear, because I know we talked earlier about like there's nothing to do with the gear, but we want to do stuff with the gear. And I've talked with Choice extensively because he loves RuneScape and he played like thousands, 20,000 plus hours of RuneScape. So like he and I have talked extensively about really cool content, but The problem is so many people are focused on like the end game and the PvP of this video game that's not even going to get addressed for a very long time, because every time they talk about PvE feature, it hypes up all the players so they get back to playing, and then they do PvP changes and stuff like that, and then it's like, okay, well, here's some grind spots and here's some more gear caps, and content isn't really going to come out. I mean, the dungeon's the closest thing to that, but you know,
I don't.
I love the dungeon.
Yeah, I think. Well, we can talk about that in a little bit. I like.
Mhm.
I think my main thing for it is like they added this item where you have to get 100 of the item, and then once you get 100 item, you can turn it in for the potion piece. And I feel like they should have adjusted the rate of that to be like equal to the previous drop rate, right? And then told us that, but they didn't tell us that. So my assumption, because they haven't told us that they adjusted the current drop rate to make it the same difficulty, is that now it is easier to go for than it used to be able to go than it used to be. Right?
I think that people are also scared of Perlibus's track record, right? With like just the game design and stuff in general. And although we've been pushed under a lot of new designs and a lot of new features and things, I think people are still scared that they could be betrayed in a sense, like, or led to believe that it's going to be something awesome when it's not, or something that's balanced or fair.
Yeah.
You know, people are just scared to have full commitment and faith.
I typically just think about it from the perspective of the idea that 20%, there will always be that 10 or 20% of the player base of someone that, like, as for the protection for the guy that spends 300 hours grinding for a single pop piece and doesn't get it. That is what I usually think about, and I'm in favor of like little pity systems like that, because it doesn't technically make the grind easier. It just gives you a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, even if it's like, okay, let's say the average to get a pop piece is 60 hours. Well, after you've grounded for this thing for 300 hours, 400 hours, you know, you'll have the things to put together to make the item, where it's like, it doesn't technically make it easier. It just like you eventually will get a bottle of lube at the end, right? Like that's what the way I see it.
Yeah.
Because like I just don't think that, like, I don't know. I just don't think that
if it originally came with the pity system, I don't think people would have a problem. I think it's retroactively putting it in the game when you can just go buy a pot from a vendor is like a slap in the face, right? They literally nerfed the pot from the vendor, and technically the mana pot was even better from the vendor, and you can literally utilize that. And players complaining that it's taking them forever to get their potion, it's like, well, don't grind it, buy the pot from the vendor. Like saying that it needs to have a pity system or it needs to be got, like I need to get it. Like I don't know, it seems like a really big sense of entitlement. Like when there's literally another item in the game that's just like it, it's literally inexpensive. It's just a quality of life rare thing.
Well, so in defense of the entitlement thing, some players sure are just like, oh, I put in 200 hours, I deserve it, whatever. I think that what the pity system should be, though, I don't think it should be like I grinded an average amount and I didn't get it, therefore boohoo for me. It's more the fact that if you were to chart everyone who grinds the potion on on like a bell curve,
Sure.
The bottom even 20% of that is so much more fucked than the middle, like 50%. You're talking about people who are grinding 5-10 times more than average. And if you start to look at like the bottom 5% or the bottom 1%, you're talking about people who are potentially grinding 20, 30, 50 times more hours than the average. That to me starts to get like just fucking crazy. And when you're talking about a game with where tens of thousands of people are going for this item, some of those people are literally like statistically guaranteed to never get it, even if they grinded it for 12 hours a day for 10 years. They would have no chance of getting it. Just that's just how the averages are going to play out.
I think in those cases,
feel like it's supposed to, it should protect against those extremes without having a significant impact on the average, or having any impact on the average.
I 100% agree with that. And the problem is that everybody hasn't ever like brought that to the argument. They always say, well, the pity system's good, but they don't like go into that depth of why. I 100% agree with that. I think that like statistical anomalies like big and shiny and Kugels having 3,000 plus hours for the compass shouldn't exist. I think that the failsafe should only be for those players that absolutely just have the most incredible bad luck streak of their life that statistically wouldn't get it, right? Like I think that that's where that should be in case of. I think most people when they hear failsafe, they're thinking, oh, like I should just get it because like you said, people, I say, oh, I did this many hours, like they think they get it, right? And I just, that demotivates meet, like if every system for now on it has like a pity system, like it de-incentivizes the grind, because I can't say that it was like I signed up for the 1,000-hour grind and I grinded 1,000 hours or 2,000 hours or whatever. It's I signed up for the 100-hour grind and I grinded 100 hours, and like there's no, I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of kills the story of it too.
Yes,
Like
the
there's not much of
illusion.
there's no story if you have a set amount of hours to get it, unless you get lucky and get it before that. That's the only time where it's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think like I definitely like the idea of like once you get to well, this is an arbitrary number, right? Let's say you grinded 300 hours for your potion piece, and then it doubles the odds of getting it. Then you grind another 300 hours, it doubles the odds again. And you grind now you're at 900 hours, it doubles the odds again. And eventually, at some point, you're going to get it, right? Like your odds will just be it'll be improbable for you not to get it with that kind of system in place. And
Yeah, that's actually interesting. So your odds slowly go up rather than a guaranteed like you
Raw
grinded
system.
this many of pieces. You just it
Mhm.
goes from a a 1 in
Yeah.
50,000 to a 1 in 40,000, and then kind of slowly. Yeah,
And-
I like that.
and you don't have to tell the player that, right? You don't.
Yeah, they don't have to know about it at all.
Yeah. And like if the player base starts getting angry about it, all you have to say is like, we have a system in play where we guarantee people to eventually get it. We're not going to tell you how it works. We've taken that into consideration. And then that'll just be it. And then I think the thing right now that bothers me the most is that there's a new item in the game that I can associate an hour to. I think that's the main thing that bothers me about it. Is like now when I go and grind Blood Wolves, I'm going to get this item that's going to eventually be able to turn into the potion piece, right? And I think that's the thing that's kind of that, and I can see that, right? And I can relate to what Blonde Bear is saying there, and imagining that scenario.
And there's
Yeah, I can see both sides of it, because at the same time, like I would like, every time there was a new season, I would always grind my season characters at Blood Wolves or at some potion grind spot, and it like I can see both. Like it felt really good to get the lottery potion piece drop, but at the same time, like it would be kind of cool if every season I had an actual objective that I knew that I was working towards, and even if I only did 10% of it per season, I would know that eventually, 8 or 9 seasons from now, I'm going to get this thing. So I think you need both, right? Like you need the lottery drops, but you also need like the equity that you're building towards something. You need to
Yeah.
see the fail stacks when you're going for your pin. Like you can't. There's got to be a mixture, right?
I don't. Yeah, I think that you can have both of those, right? I think you can create some items that have that built-in failsafe that you can see, and you can have other ones that don't. You don't see it. And like because that appeals to different types of people, right? Different people, obviously for player retention, they're going to pick the option that keeps the most players, which is definitely like seeing your progress, right? Seeing your progress is going to retain way more people and encourage way more people to grind that item out. When they're like 30 out of 100, they're like, well, I can do this. Like that wasn't that bad. I can do it at 70. Like, and then they have one potion piece and they're like, oh, well, I did that one. I could do 2 more of those. That's not that bad. And I think from a retention standpoint, I think that's very wise. But I think from a gameplay standpoint, I think there needs to be that diversity there. Otherwise, you kind of it just becomes another version of the grind simulator, right?
I would actually be very curious to see what percentage of people who grind for the potion burn out and quit the game. Like I feel like it's got to be one of the. I wonder if they actually have metrics for that. I feel like it's got to be one of the worst ways of retaining players.
I mean, do you think that's because the spots are like the entry level spots? It's the first grind that most fresh out of seasons characters get into. Because I feel like people don't quit over not getting a compass or a map, right? Like those grinds aren't demotivating to players.
Well,
I mean, there
think
isn't even a pity map system or compass too. There's literally a pity pot. It's called the one from the vendor, and you grab that. Like, there's literally a system in the game that already has the item.
I think
there is something particularly soul crushing about the potion grind compared to the map grind. I don't know what it is.
I don't think
I think the map and the compass are a little bit more like niche. Like not a lot of people care about them. Whereas the potion, I feel like a lot of people see the infinite potion as like part of their progression, part of their like main. It's one of the main things they actually need to get. And yeah, maybe it is just the fact that it's all that time spent at like, fucking Ronaros or Tashira Ruins or whatever.
Yeah, like if you were at a spot that made you money, you probably wouldn't feel as sour.
Right, then you would
also
exactly.
the mentality that players only associate valuable time with money per hour. If if it dropped at orcs, I'm pretty sure no one would have a problem with that, and there would be
Right.
way less complaints. So is it the mentality of the players that needs to adapt to the system, or do we just give into the demands of every player that complains about things in the game?
I think what you're talking about there is there's two different types of players, right? This is the first infinite grind item, right? The first treasure item you can go for that casual players go for. And I think that's why they're running into this issue is they've made it
100%.
they made it unclear who this is for, where the other ones were very, very obvious that they were for, because it's easy enough that your casual player can almost do it. Like they really can almost do it as a casual player. And I think that's the problem here is the hardcore players like Blonde Bear, me, like potion piece. I have 2 extra potion pieces right now. I have the mana potion, the HP potion, the map. Like this is not a big deal for me. But for your casual player, right, they have a completely different mindset. Like these players are coming in here and this is not be their first time of ever going for something actually difficult in a video game.
I mean, I've had friends that have grinded less than 100 hours and complained about it. So it's like when I talk to them, I'm like, really? Like you're upset about like you've done like 20 hours at each spot and you're upset? Like, is this for real? Is this like a joke? I don't know. It's just to me that's just so odd because I equate it to the same grind as any other legendary rare item, and they're trying to dispel the idea of, oh well, you know, we're gonna put a pity system because this isn't a regular legendary item. It's like, okay, I just still am of the belief that if you don't, you know, if you're not up to it, buy the potion from the vendor. It's inexpensive, and you know, if you want to, I don't know.
I think your idea there is correct, but it's sort of like the genie's out of the bottle now, right? They've accidentally
it's already
they've created an item that's for casual players regardless if they want it to be or not at this point.
And it's also like the number of players that are going to have your mentality, Blonde Bear, versus the number of players that are going to have the I grinded 100 hours. I can't believe I haven't had it. This is ridiculous. Give me my potion. Like that population is way, way, way bigger than you. It's not a matter of right or wrong, right? It's a matter of like it's the same sort of way how they design the game to, you know, kind of cater towards new players. Because in reality, the way that the like player retention works in this game, most people are going to spend what they're going to spend in the first 6 months. People who've been playing the game for 4 years spend way less than people who've been playing the game for 4 weeks. So
I think the game is getting very casual, and it's killing that hardcore part that I really love. And you know, it's like I just have to come to terms with it. It is what it is, and there's nothing I can do about it.
This might be a little bit of a tangent, but I'm actually curious. Do you think that removing the or showing the chances on enhancement was a mistake in the same way that like the failsafe for the potion piece you feel like is a mistake? Takes away the mystery, right?
I mean, yes and no. It's nice because people absolutely hate enhancing, so the players that even hate it can like be happy about it. I guess it's like because I mean, Biohack's got to the point where he's mathed it out so hard that like, you know, it's said and done, and he knows exactly what numbers to click to guarantee basically everything and always make a profit. So on that side of it, it's like, yeah, but for the players that are only going to click like 5 items in their entire career, then it's like less hardcore.
I wish I didn't know still, personally.
I think it's a very interesting question because I think the sentiment of we want to know how difficult something is the correct sentiment. I think the solution that we proposed, which was seeing the odds, was the incorrect solution, though. I think that should have been something along the lines, there should have been some way of indicating the difficulty of the item outside of, you know, telling us the exact percentage. Because I think what has happened now is that the average player can mathematically not create any item in the game, and they should just buy it from Biohack. And basically the entire marketplace right now is a scam. Like if you make any of your own item, right, you're wasting your time, and you should just buy it from the marketplace. And it's how everybody should play the game now. So the marketplace is your loot pinata rather than the enhancing system, which is nice if you don't like enhancing. But I think it really does hurt the game because I do think, you know, getting your first tet, you know, whatever that would be, right, it was like a really good moment for a lot of players, and right now that's the improper way of playing the game. So
yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of people still like to like chase the dopamine, right? Like, there's still so many people that enhance and like
Yeah,
I'd say there's
I don't
still more
enhance
people
because
that
it's
enhance.
good. I enhance because I want to feel, something when I fail or succeed.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the player's goal there, right, should line up with the systems that are in play, right? Right now, like the underlying thing in the back of your head is I'm probably not doing this efficient unless I've played the game or done my spreadsheets, right?
Yep.
And I feel like
Yep, that's actually one of the things that that's one of the things in my video that had its own section was that in-game enhancing is a complete and utter chore. It's not fun to do. Like in order to get your dopamine, you have to do 6 hours of chores first for 5 seconds of excitement, and it's just not a bad trade-off. I think if they had designed the fail stack system way better from the start, they never would have had to show us the percentages. I think they could have kept it a mystery if fail stacking was actually fair and reasonable. But because the system they've come up with is so convoluted and unintuitive, they had to show us the numbers, and I think that kind of killed the whole thing. But I think there was a possible world in which they could have kept it hidden, and we would have been okay if fail stacks actually felt like they worked.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting. It's sort of like the genie's out of the bottle now. I don't think it's too late for them to kind of go back and then do a whole rework on the entire thing. And I think if they did that well, it would actually improve the game. But I think since they're so worried about their bottom line right now, that I don't think there's ever a chance of that happening. Really,
They absolutely can still rework it. The only reason they don't is because people are so invested in the previous system, and it'd be a lot of work to try to figure out how to convert people's advice of Valks and shit like that over to a different system. But yeah, of course they could rework it. I mean, if you just look at what they've done on BDO Mobile, it's undeniably a better system. Well, at least it was when it launched. They kind of ruined it, but yeah, there's clearly better ways of doing it. I think that it's just more of like a sunk cost at this thing at this point.
yeah. That is a very good question. I like that question.
Do we have other? I feel like there was other video stuff that we were going to go over. Was that it?
They put in the camo outfit, so you now see unknown adventure above someone's head when they're wearing a camo outfit. And
So it doesn't hide their nameplate anymore?
their nameplate's
Thank
still
fucking
hidden.
God,
Their
bro.
nameplate is still hidden, but I mean, unless you're talking about the unknown adventure, there's unknown adventure above their head, so you don't see their
All that's
name or
hidden
guild.
is your identity.
Yeah, your identity's still hidden, but you can actually track somebody with it now, right?
It basically
so
makes
somebody
it
in a glowing green ghillie isn't like invisible anymore when they flag up.
bingo. Yeah, it has like where your name would be. It has in big letters unknown adventurer. So
Such a
you
good
can
change,
finally,
dude.
you can finally see them.
I used to think ghillie suits are so powerful, but I ended up getting killed more when I had it on than I had it off. So like,
Really?
yeah, people like really like me. I guess I don't know. People see me and they're like, "Hey, Blonde Bear, what's up?" I'm like, "Hello," and then they like,
Because
"Have a good one."
Oh, you mean people are more likely to fight? Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, people are like, "Oh, this guy's in a ghillie. I'm gonna kill him and take a spot." And then they're like,
I thought
"Oh,
you meant
well."
like you lost more often with it on, because I was gonna say you're crazy, bro. It is such an advantage. When I throw that shit on, my KDA triples. Like and I don't even use the cancer die.
People are like super nice to me. I'm like, "Oh."
So that was the awesome change. I actually think that's probably one of the better quality lives, and I kind of assume the name goes red when they're flagged up and stuff, right? So like that would, if that works properly, that would also be nice.
That's good, not only to reduce pay to win, but honestly just to like the amount of time in that game that you're watching your mini map instead of your screen when you're PvPing is fucking absurd. Like I don't know if I've ever had a game where I don't look at the actual game while I'm PvPing as much as I do in BDO. Like 50% of the time you're looking at your goddamn mini map instead of what's in front of you.
I think that's honestly one of the big problems is like I feel like the game is better if they just remove the mini map. And honestly, that would create some problems. It creates some problems for like tracking elites or like following enemy movements and stuff like that. Because you can see people farther away on the mini map than you can on your screen when in Siege because of the lag.
All MMOs should not have maps or mini maps in game. Don't at me.
Oof.
Yeah, I think you'd have to design the game around that, right? Because you can't just remove them and not design the game around it. But if you remove them,
you can. You can.
If you
and then people will have to read the signs.
If you remove them, you have to have built in some system a little bit to compensate for that. And I think it's good because it gives you a more sense of immersion, right? Like BDO's world, you don't really feel like it's you feel like it's more of a world than a lot of games because you can't teleport around.
Yes. Yes, the traveling is making the world living.
Yep. And I think T9 horses and Dream horses have kind of diminished that to a certain extent because you can travel across the entire game world in 15 minutes. But it's still, even with being able to go across the entire world in such a short period of time, it still feels more of a world than most MMOs. I think the only MMO that gets close to the same feeling of worldness, I guess you would say, as BDO would be New World. And I think New World's teleport system is actually the thing that holds it back a little bit. I think it should be a little bit more restrictive in order to encourage
can
that.
you imagine how immersive that game would be if there was no in-game map? If you actually had to fucking figure out like the roads and shit in that game,
there's not
dude, the map is designed for it perfectly.
I think the world is designed perfectly for it, like the actual like aesthetic design. But I think the actual there's not enough content. There's not enough like random things you can bump into along the road on your way.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of empty.
Yeah, and I think that they would have to add a lot more like, who goes there, Ventura? Hold your ground, from like Skyrim type stuff, you know, where someone just runs up on you. They'd have to add a lot more of those like little emergent materials that the game just puts in front of you.
They just have to add some more iron nodes. That would sort it all out.
It would actually help a lot having like random like rare spawn gathering stuff that just was completely random, and you just be walking along the road, you'd be like, is that a fire lily? Oh my gosh, like that's worth a million gold or something, you know?
That's a lost art, dude. Like actual hidden stuff in MMOs that you can't just see on the map. That's a lost art. The games haven't done that for a long time.
Yeah. I think New World has potential of doing that for sure, especially if they like didn't have the map and teleport system. But I think that's a pipe dream at this point for that game. I like the idea. Hope a game does that eventually. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, BDO.
BDO. Blonde, you're probably the most into BDO out of all of us right now. Are there any other changes upcoming that you're looking forward to, or that you've got your eye on, or that are
I mean, all the classes are changing, and that's kind of the biggest thing right now. The quality of life has been tuned up like crazy, so that's kind of cool. Major changes though, I mean, not really. I mean, like, I'm excited for when the rest of the dungeons come out because I absolutely love the dungeons, and I'm super excited
yeah, you were gonna give us your sales pitch for the dungeon, right?
Give them the car salesman special, dude. Like,
I don't know.
Convince them to try it because I've tried.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to, right? 95% of the gaming in this game is grinding, and then you get 5% of PvP, and players want literally anything else. If you're of the beta male mindset that you got to be making X amount of money per hour, then you're in the old way of the game from years ago.
Yeah.
Like right now, the entire Sigma style of the game is getting in the mindset of like playing the game and having fun. And if you're not into any of the lore, the free items, the loot, the fail sacks, the actual sense of a challenge from the dungeon, then you're just a grind bot and you're a beta. I mean, get into the game. There's 3 more coming, and they're gonna have tons of rewards. There's gonna be tons of free stuff you're gonna get from it, tons of fun stuff. Every single one of these dungeons has an entirely different biome. It's got its own unique like type of system, layers, bosses, mobs, puzzles. I mean, like, players are asking for content. It's right there, and they're blind.
All right, well, I have literally thousands of hours of Lacchiaro under my belt, so no one can accuse me of doing things because of silver per hour. But I will say the main thing that is holding me back from the dungeon, and it really had nothing to do with its profitability, it more so had to do with just like whenever they add content that isn't going into circle grinding, for me, a lot of that stuff is like Altar of Blood or other like, you know, combat type things that they've tried to add. It just hasn't, I don't know, it's felt like lazy and not fleshed out, and they do like one thing and then they never update it and then it dies instantly. I think that's kind of what kept me from getting hyped for that dungeon.
Well, the dungeon's awesome. I'm literally doing it right now.
It was really fun.
It's a lot of fun.
It was
There's a lot
really
of
fun.
story. There's a lot of life. There's a lot of world building. Tons of lore in it. There's just so much inside of it that makes it so much fun, in my opinion. Very, very valuable experience. I mean, if you're just, I don't know. Again, every player's mindset is so much about the money, but if you're wanting like a really lived-in experience, like a fun lore-based, like you're walking in, like actually immersed in the game, the dungeon's pretty cool. Other than the birds, everything in the dungeon is cool. The birds are the only thing that suck.
Okay, now is this coming from the perspective, like, have you played other theme park games and had like
I've played a lot of other games. Yeah,
Okay,
I've
so
played a lot
this
of World of
isn't
Warcraft.
okay,
I mean, there's a little bit of copium in it because I absolutely love BDO, but
right? That's what I'm trying to decipher.
I don't know. I thought it was fantastic. I was absolutely in love with it, 100%. I was super, 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 super in love with it when it came out, and I want to continue. I can't wait for the other ones. I'm genuinely mega excited. Super, super, super
Does it
excited.
bother you that they're already solved in Korea by the time they come out in Italy?
That didn't ruin my experience because I love following guides. So like my first run through, I literally just ran through with all the guides and I had an absolute blast. I enjoy running through guides. I mean, it's my entire gaming career. Like when I played Game Boy games, I ran through guides and I had a blast. I thought it was fun. I didn't have any issue with it. It definitely sucks because there's no self-discoverability, but every single friend that I tried to get into the dungeon never wanted to do the puzzles anyways. They were always like, just tell me the freaking code, dude. And I'm like, well, that ruins the immersion, but everything else is still fun about it. Thematically, it's cool. The secret puzzles were my favorite thing. There are puzzles that aren't part of the main story or part of the main quest or part of anything that you're just left to figure out, and that was a lot of fun. Figuring those out with a 5-man group of people that actually cared and wanted to see the stuff was really, really, really enjoyable.
So you felt like there was actually some story that you got invested in?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you
Absolutely
know
liked.
like the overall BDO lore pretty well?
Not really. I know names and places, but I'm not like following the dedicated path. I know it's like all themed around Sage, and this has a lot to do with like this is his dungeon that he built to fight like the Black Spirit comet that was going to bring like an invasion to the planet, right? And then it came and wiped out a bunch of people, and then there's just a lot of stuff to it that I don't know the details, but I get the general gist. I'm not a historian, but I've read it.
Well, and I think the thing that does a really good job with that is it actually has a cutscene, right? Like there are actual cutscenes in a dungeon, and that's I think that's what really sells it. There's cutscenes and voiceovers, and it's the first time I think there's actually been a solid voiceover for any part of the main storyline. So I think that helps a lot. I actually the main thing for me is the replayability. I want there to be some replayability to it, and it either has to come in the form of the dungeon changing every week for like mechanic wise, or has to come in the form of some loot, and it just turns into a grind, like a grind spot, but I just do the dungeon instead. And I don't think it has either one of those really for me. I do think
It's really fun. I like to redo it just to fight the boss mechanics again. I
Yeah, I
the boss
really
mechanics.
hope they don't get discouraged by like a majority of the feedback being like, eh. Like I really hope they just continue to go hard on with it because it was so much fun. So
I
much
want
fun.
to see those boss mechanics at a world boss, right?
Would be really cool.
I want to see. That's what I want to see. I want to see like
That was the plan, wasn't it, for Kudum? Like that was the
they
you
did
get to go
such.
in a different room and do certain things for the special Kudum boss.
Yeah,
Problem is it's not rewarding enough, and that's the thing is every player's got that beta mindset of money per hour. It's never about the experience.
yeah. Well, and I think another big problem is that the poison just kills you. There's nothing you can do about it. No amount of gear you can get. Like, so you have to die to the poison.
Yeah, having your gear be devalued in every boss fight because you died just like a level 50 player feels bad.
Yeah, but I think
The
that
one thing, the one. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
The two things that I really dislike about the dungeon, though, is that I don't like that we had to wait 2 months to get it after Korea had it. Like, that's just kind of killed the hype for me initially, which is why I didn't want to even give it a shot when it first came out. And the second thing is I don't like Crystal Loss in the
Yeah,
hard mode version
that
because it's
shouldn't
kind
have
of
happened.
like, yeah, it's like Crystal Loss is bad because it's like even if you have the perfect luck, the money that I know you shouldn't think about the game in terms of money per hour, but I mean it's
Well,
still you just don't want to lose crystals that are worth hundreds of millions of silver, right?
You
The
should-
whole
you shouldn't
system
lose
of
them all.
losing crystals doesn't make sense anymore. That's such an outdated system.
Exactly. It's like really outdated, and console doesn't even have it. So it's like it's just
Yeah.
like a relic of the past.
Definitely,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I don't think we should have crystal loss the way we do currently in the game. The fact that a player can just decide to run their DP set and kill you at like any LV spot's pretty miserable.
So yeah, I definitely am looking forward to the second dungeon as long as they don't make us wait 2 months for it. But I still will do it because I mean the dungeon was surprisingly fun. After I finally caved in and like ran it, now I've run it like 3 times. And I've like run it the last 3 weeks in a row just because like it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like I really
I
like
have a
the
group that
bosses.
runs it every week, and I absolutely love it. I mean, we kind of speed run it, so you're not getting the lore bit version, but it's fun. It's
I mean,
content
like-
that isn't grinding.
Yeah, like I just think about it in like the holistic view where it's like we finally have all 4 like dungeons in the game. You get together once or twice a week with the boys to run
Yep.
through all of the 4 dungeons within a couple hours time. You kind of shoot the shit in Discord
Yep.
and then you like go do something else, Like that's kind of the way I
100%.
hope to look at it in the end, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. I think that's fair. I think that big bottleneck is probably finding groups. I think it's a big problem in Bless Unleashed also. Is it's like finding a group that you can do that with is probably the biggest bottleneck, and I think that's really hindering a lot of people from enjoying the content.
Have you looked for a group?
Oh yeah, like I've been playing with Medi, but like I think I'm a little privileged in that regard, right? I think a person finding a group is very, very hard in the game.
I'm surprised you say that. I've found a ton of good pugs to play with. I just keep adding them to my friends list, and we can slam Abyssal with a bunch of randos now pretty easily without even getting into comms.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just the approach to the game has to be different, and it's kind of like a learned skill, which I feel like that should be more. I feel like the game should naturally kind of corral people who can do the activity, right? And if you can't do the activity, then you're said, oh well, I'll go to the previous activity, right? And I think that's sort of like what the game does pretty poorly. And I think Black Desert probably has a very similar issue. I mean, I think the benefit of Black Desert is that they have a good guild system, or compared to at least Bless, and so people are already kind of in guilds in that game, so they probably have people they can do it with a little more readily.
I would think getting a group in Bless is 100 times easier than BDO. In BDO, you literally have to advertise in general chat. I mean, in Bless, there's a matchmaking system you just queue up for, and it puts you in with other people who are geared enough to do that objective. And sometimes you still might fail, but you're going to find a good amount of people who will actually succeed at that, because people who are just dying over and over again are going to give up and are going to keep queuing. I don't know. I haven't had any trouble pugging those dungeons. I think out of the last 5 times I pugged it, only one group failed, and the rest, had a wipe or 2. But overall, they did fine, and I was able to meet some new people and get some new people to play with through that matchmaking.
I don't know. I have not been able to clear a single Temple of Lies of the pug group yet. Not once.
Really?
Yep. I think the Abyssal might be the exception there. I don't know. Maybe people who already just don't queue it unless they know they can complete it. But yeah, I can't complete Abyssal's Sundered's. I usually have to hard carry, because I'm way over geared. Like if you're properly geared for it, you can't do it because there are people just they'll pull extra mobs or they don't do enough DPS. So I've had a lot of troubles with that. I think that is a big bottleneck for people.
Yeah, maybe they just need harsher filters on the mid-level dungeons then.
Yeah, that might be the case. Because you can technically go into Abyssal with, I think it's like 1100 gear score or something. Like something like crazy low for it.
Yeah, pretty low.
And that doesn't include your attack power or your crit rate or crit damage or anything.
I guess they could have a in-house, like a pre-made requirement, and then a matchmaking requirement, and the matchmaking requirement could be higher. That could be a solution.
Have you guys Kerr or Blombear? Have you guys heard anything about people having a hard time finding a group for the dungeon, like from your chats or anything?
No, No, not necessarily. Most people have a group of friends they run with. There's a lot of people that look for it in world chat and find it. I just think that the gear requirement's weird because it says for the hard mode you need like X amount of gear. But like if you run with the minimum requirements for the hard mode dungeon, you're gonna need like really good classes and probably a shy with you because it's quite hard at the minimum. Whereas most people are like 20 AP higher, 30, 40, 50 DP higher, and it's sloppy, but it's doable.
I
If you
just
just
looked
like
at the
mess
party
around.
finder, and there's 4 parties advertising on the party finder
Really?
board. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
there's people that find I see them always posting because you posted in the chat, right? You posted in the like it gets posted in the world chat when you put your message up.
yeah, and I'll have people just like in Twitch chats that are like, "Hey, anybody want to do the dungeon?" And then we'll
Mhm.
just, I mean, that's how I did it. Just
Yeah, they have
told
like
me
a
to click
seasonal
on.
version. They've got the Elvia version, seasonal version, and normal version. So people that are brand new to the game are still like running it and stuff too.
They also on the seasonals, a recent change they did that's on live service now is they integrated the party finding thing onto your
Onto
UI.
their UI, yeah.
Yeah, so like right beside your fairy
Oh.
icon, there's a party finder UI so it's like pretty actively used now because the group spots in seasonal are really good now, like
Hmm.
Basilisk Den and such.
That's a good change, actually.
Like there's people knocking out like 200 mil at Bassi
Actually
Den after buff.
interacting with other players in that game. That's
In
crazy.
BDO?
Yeah, so hopefully they do that to all players, like make it so that the party finder function is like integrated into the UI, not just seasonal. Because I think that's a pretty good change to do, honestly.
Yeah. I do think that having people find their own groups and determine those is much better than the game putting random people together. Because then, if someone comes in there and you can recognize somebody who's, just looking for a hard carry, right? And you're like, oh, you're not in here, right? Get off here,
Or trolls and
Yep.
stuff like that.
You can kind of identify that a little bit easier. And you have like a little bit of control over that. Let's see what else we have here. Another thing they did for BDO is they have a new option for close UI when hit. So you can now leave up your world map or your knowledge map and get hit by
Wow.
mobs. Yep. I think that's a extremely good change, honestly.
I mean, the option has been there. It's just never worked.
Well, they have a new option, and the old option is still for like closing your regular UI menus, but they have a new option that's a new toggle on and toggle off for your world map and stuff. So you can select that and turn it off now, which I think that's superb.
Yeah, that's something I used to complain about a lot, and my chat would always be like, "Hey, why don't you just go turn the option on?" And I'm like, "Are you guys fucking stupid?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good change.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it also applies to like when you're hovering over your, like, I don't know, your gear, right? And it pops up your little menu and you get hit by a monster and it disappear. Or like you're trying to, I know they fixed the tent one where if you're trying to repair your gear at the tent and you get hit, your repair thing would go away.
Dude, I got so good at insta repairing. Like even back when you had to scroll, like I was so fast at opening my tent, scrolling down, popping my villa buff, like within like 0.2 seconds in between mob swings.
So the quality of life changes continue. I think that's about it for the BDO stuff that I
They
noticed.
added in the AMD FSR thing integration
Yep.
for increasing your like frame rates and the way the game runs on remastered. And a lot of people have been getting like up to 50 FPS increases on remastered with the AMD FSR.
Yeah, Max.
Is that only for AMD cards or is that for everybody?
Works for NVIDIA as well, as long as it's a 10 series and above.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yep. I actually kind of want to log in just to see how good my FPS is now. I think
It's pretty nice.
It seems to be something that's targeted more towards GPUs and CPUs. So if you're bottlenecked by your CPU, then this isn't going to help you. And there are a good amount of people who are bottlenecked by CPUs. So that is something to keep in mind. Is there anything else that I missed?
I think that was all that I can think of for that.
They had
for BDO for this week, right?
they had something on Global Labs about loot scrolls being
Oh,
for
they
this
added
UI.
in the on-off feature where
The
you can like
on-off
turn your.
pausable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna be able to turn loot scrolls on and off. There's like an on-off
No,
feature for
you
it.
can. You can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which would be interesting. I guess you could like if you're really trying to grief someone, you put a 5-minute timer after the first gank, wait for all your buffs to come up, and then come back and grief them once they turn it back on and stop their timer.
You just change over to your ninja.
Whatever
Yeah.
happened to like the reworked outlaw system and all that shit? Are they still going through with that? Are they making like any strides
They
towards actually fixing world
probably
PvP?
scrapped it.
It seems like they have taken a break from making content. That seems like what they've done. Like they've just taken a break from making content for the game, and they're just making only quality of life right now. Like that's, I don't know. Like they haven't really done much with Node Wars. They really haven't done much with the war system. I think like overall, it feels like they've just taken a hard stop on all the content for now, and this quality of life. It's an interesting plan. I mean,
So do you guys think it's a valid excuse? So okay, so they started missing some of their deadlines on the roadmap like they always do, and then they came out with the excuse that we're putting everything on hold to finish the Clash reworks. Like, do you think
Yeah.
that's even a valid excuse? I don't think it is, right? Because in a
No.
multi-billion-dollar company, like the
Every
person that's
time
the person that's designing the T9 fucking unicorn is not having say in Warriors damage modifiers.
Yeah, that's
so
a
like
completely different group.
so
I don't
why
know,
is
man.
that like a shitty caveat or an excuse to
I'll
like
It
miss
seems
your
like they're
deadlines?
they're always the team is all on the one thing at a time. They're like, okay, this is what we're working on, and somehow even the people that aren't part of that design aren't working on anything. It feels like
I'll-
because there's no reason XYZ should be put on pause because class balance
Exactly, it's
changes
so
are
weird.
happening. I don't know why that is. They've always done one thing at a time at the company. I don't, that's for the updates. It seems like, and I don't know why. I don't know why it seems like that.
I'll tell you why I think this happened. They recently put out a trailer for like Pearl Abyss put out a trailer for Dookie V, and I think they've taken members from the Black Desert team and they have put them onto that project, and so I think they have less people to actually work on BDO stuff now. I think that's what's going on. I think it's the same thing that happened when BDO Mobile, like they lost a part of their team to BDO Mobile. They lost part of their team to Crimson Desert. And I think
I don't
now
know,
they're losing
dude.
part of their team to that.
I have
It's just hard
been
to believe.
told behind the scenes that is not the case. But
But why does it seem like it's hard to believe because like just the way that they do the content. It's like how is everything being put on hold? How is the costume designer going to be adding like something to another class?
Like for example, okay, so I have this tab open at all times. It's called the depression and disappointment tab. It's basically where I keep their roadmap for the year. And I'll pull it up right now. And basically so like on all the stuff that they have said they were going to do is that, so like for example, August 12th we were supposed to receive the new in-game card minigame YAR. August 19th we were supposed to receive new RBF maps. August 26th we were supposed to receive Terror of the Deep, which is the infinite underwater dungeon with that like has infinite floors and you keep going and going.
They're making a card game?
Yeah, all of this stuff, and then they're like, well, all of this stuff isn't coming because we're pushing all of this back to focus on the Clash reworks. It's like the person that like, why would the person who's designing an in-game card game have anything to do with the rework of Warrior or the rework of any class?
Yeah, it doesn't take 200 devs to figure out what Warrior's modifier should be, or whether or not there's an evasion shred.
If you were literally gonna have it out on these dates and you already have these dates in mind, that means you already have like a concept or like some kind of in-house thing to go by. Like what? I don't know. I just really hate when they give us dates. Like September 2nd, T10 Dine was supposed to come out. Like the guy that's making the T10 Dine, like how hard is it to make a fucking like a T10 unicorn and give it water effects? Like I'm so confused how like they give us these excuses.
I can't believe that's not out. I remember that getting announced so long ago.
Like
Dude.
It got announced 2 years ago.
I hate when they give us dates, dude, because it just makes me angry. I'd rather they just not tell me anything and not give me any dates, and then I'd be blissfully surprised if they actually did something. But I hate when they give us these roadmaps and they do one thing on the roadmap. Like that's always been my pet peeve.
Yep.
Yeah, my game's dying. Fuck. But yeah, I don't know. I really hate it when they do that.
I think when to answer this kind of stuff is really, really straightforward. All you have to do is look at the amount of content they were producing and look at the amount of content they're producing now, right? The first year we were getting an update twice a year. Then we got an update once a year. Now we're getting an update every other year, and now we're getting to the point where we're getting an update almost every 2 years, right? And so like I think it's just getting worse and worse and worse because they're taking more and more people away from the team. Like we like the guy who wrote the story, who did Shadow Arena, is the guy who got put on the Shadow Arena main team. The guy who's running BDO Mobile used to be on the Black Desert PC team, right?
Like, no, not quite. The guy who runs Shadow Arena actually was moved over from Xbox console, so he wasn't the original creator of Shadow Arena.
Xbox console and PC are the same team, though, aren't they?
Oh, no.
Completely different. They're separate guys.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the developers. The developers are the exact same. Like
no. Console has its own separate department that's there just to make the game work on console. They take all the stuff that the PC devs do, and they completely in some cases they have to completely change that shit to get it to work on console. They have to come up with different control schemes, and they have their own UI team that's just for console. They have their own like pacing in terms of content,
the
and
UI team
balancing, and all that stuff. They have like probably 100 devs that just work on console that don't touch PC at all.
There's like the UI team works across all platforms. It's the same across all of them. It's one guy. It's like they did a whole interview with him.
I don't know where you're getting that from. That's definitely not what they told me.
But you have to think like when they talk to people, they're a salesman to every person. When they talk to the players, they're saying they're going to upsell, they're going to overpromise and underdeliver. That's what the Koreans always do. When they talk to their shareholders, they're going to overpromise and underdeliver. What they say to their shareholders, we're going to have out Crimson Desert this year. Overpromise, underdeliver. Didn't put out this year, and then they've delayed it indefinitely at this point, right? They overpromise, underdeliver. And the player base, they're doing the same thing. They're overpromising and underdelivering. When they have influencers come out, they're overpromising influencers, which they did across the board on everything I'm sure they've talked to you about, and then they underdelivered on every single point that they did on that.
I think they just get very excited. They're just very optimistic, you know. they're like like when New Year's comes around and your friends are like, yeah, I'm gonna work out 6 days a week and get swole, and then like 3 weeks later they've never they're done going to the gym. I feel like that's kind of what happens with Prolibus. They get an idea and they're like, oh my god, yeah, Crimson Desert, we're gonna be ready next year, and then next year comes by and they're like, oh shit, well I guess not.
But yeah, I mean, the original conversation topic here, right, was that why are they not being able to put out this content, right? They were able to put out one region a year, and now they can't put out one region a year anymore, right? Like, it's like, I don't see the excuse, right? They obviously have had this Tier 10 Dreamforce in the works for a long time, so why can't they meet their deadline, right? Like, the excuse is, like, what, they're focusing on classes? Well, that, like Kerr said, that doesn't have anything to do with it. So the only other explanation to me is either one, they've delayed it because they want to release it with New World, or they're trying to release it with Lost Ark, or whatever the case may be, or they have lost developers. And I think it's more likely than not that they've lost a portion of the developers.
I don't know. I think it's just poor leadership. I think if anything, they've gained developers, but I think they just sort of like pathologically move people from like one part of the game to the other without allowing them to complete anything. I think it's just extremely, extremely poor leadership and management.
Yeah, that's just my thing. I just, dude, I fucking hate when they give us these roadmaps and then don't stick to any part of it. Like maybe give us, because it becomes like every year when you look at the roadmap, it's like 2 things on that roadmap that will actually make it into the game, and then there'll be like 3 things that get swept under the rug and you never hear about them ever again, and then a couple other things that just kind of get kicked down the road. So I would really much prefer if they just never really told us these things, or like if they did, make sure they know like it's gonna come out. But yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not convinced, right? When they have Dookie V trailer coming out, they have Crimson Desert team they're working on that game. They have apparently still somebody working on Shadow Arena. They have Black Desert Mobile, Black Desert Console, and Black Desert PC. And then they tell me that half of the developers are working on Crimson Desert. Like, I can't help but believe that, and then they also have EVE Online, and EVE Online Mobile they're working on. Like, I can't help but believe that BDO does not have 300 developers. Like, that's a lot of, like, either the other teams are extremely starved for developers and are making miracles occur, or what's more likely, in my opinion, is that BDO is starved for developers, and the BDO is, we can see that they're not being able to put out they're not able to meet deadlines ever. I think that's just more likely.
Eve doesn't even speak the same language as the rest of Prolibus. There's no way that BDO devs are working on Eve. They're literally not even in the same continent. They don't even talk to each other.
That's not what I'm saying. Like, they have a total number of developers. We know that number from their quarterly earnings report, and they've said that half of the developers are working on Crimson Desert, and that means the other half have to be split among all the other stuff. That's what my
I don't think they said half their workers are on Crimson Desert.
Yep.
I'd like to see that.
It's in the quarter 1 earnings report.
You have a link?
I already linked it before. We already talked about it. It's in topics, podcast topics.
Yeah, it's in the Discord.
Yeah. They said that half the developers are working on it. We can talk about that later. I don't think it's worth looking up right now. Like, but that is like, they have said that half of them working on it, and maybe they're lying to, like, or stretching the truth, so to speak, on how many developers are truly working on Crimson Desert. Because at this point, we know that they're not trying to upsell the developers or their investors anymore on Crimson Desert, because they've delayed it indefinitely at this point, right? So that was obviously, that they said that to their investors before they delayed it indefinitely. So I don't know. I just can't believe that they have a large development team. Like, I just don't believe it at this point. Like, I just don't.
Why do you think? Do you think they're just lying about the number of people working on the game?
They've never told us what the number of people working on the game is. Not for BDO. They've never told us. I mean, we've assumed that it's a 300-man team or a 200-man team or something. I just don't think it's that large anymore. I think it's a very, very small team. And the main reason I think about that, I'm surprised to even think that you think that there's a console team, because the developer that what's this, JSOC, he is the lead game designer, and he is the one making the game design choices for console. He's the one actually pushing for console updates, and he actually said that with the CMs from console. They said, yeah, JSOC, he's the guy pushing for a lot of our individual features for console, and he's the lead developer for PC. So I don't think there's a whole team that's redesigning stuff for console. Maybe initially there was.
Not
for the initial port.
I mean, they're not like redesigning the entire game, but there's clearly a team that's devoted to just like the console UI, for example, is its own team. The people who made the UI for PC and the people who made the UI for console are just for sure not the same. I mean, I've talked to them. They work specifically on console. They were hired specifically to work on console. A lot of them weren't at the company before console existed.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sure.
But I mean, I would be pretty shocked if there was less than 100 devs for BDO. I don't think it's ever been that low. I would imagine that it's only gone up over time. Anytime they've been asked about it, or anytime they've mentioned their numbers in a stock report, I've never seen any mention of like people getting taken off of BDO or moved to other games or anything like that. Anytime I've asked behind the scenes, like, because I've poked some of the people that I met in Korea and said, like, hey, like, what's happening? Did everyone just leave to go work on BDO Mobile? Did everyone just leave to go work on Crimson Desert? And every time I ask them something like that, they're like, no, it's still the same people that were making it before. And I'm shocked every time I hear that. But I don't think they would lie. So I think it's got to just be a leadership issue at this point, man. I think that it's the problems are all originating from up top.
I mean, it could
Game
be,
is still making money, so they're just chilling, baby.
yeah. I mean, I guess that could be it. I don't think it's under 100. If I had to guess, I would say it's around like 150. And then you have some people who are flopping between multiple projects, right? Like some people who are like, we occasionally work on PC when we're not working on Crimson Desert or something. Like people who are like
even
free
150 though, it just doesn't seem like that was kind of my issue. Every week when I would look at the patch notes for that game, I remember being shocked when I initially heard the number of devs that worked on BDO, and just every week when I read the patch notes, I continued to be shocked because it just doesn't feel like a game that has more than 100 people working on it. I mean, it's like you said, it feels like the game has 20 or 30 devs. And I don't know why every aspect of the game feels like it's so stretched thin, and like one person has to do 10 different things when they have that many people working on. There's not that many different systems that the game even is still actively updating. Like class rebalance, how many devs do you need to rebalance a class? Maybe a handful per class. It's probably the same people that do multiple classes as well. It's not like the devs just rework warrior and then take a 6-month vacation. Like I'm sure the same people who rework warrior are going to go and rework lawn next or something. So it is very confusing where all this manpower is going. And I would love to man, I would love to just fucking peek behind the curtain at that company and just see what the fuck has been going on for the last 2 years, because it is flabbergasting.
Yeah.
And I mean, and obviously this isn't to just like absolutely shit on them. Like they've been doing a lot of good changes that they should have done a long time ago. But you know what? Yeah, finally, I like the quality of life. I like the rework of the old classes. I just don't really like the lip service and the like bullshit excuses they give as to why they're not reaching deadlines. And that's just kind of the point of the conversation, I guess, for me
Yeah.
personally.
I
Yeah,
think
I
they just
love
have a bunch.
BDO.
Dude, I think they just have like half their devs just are just like phoning it in. You know what I mean? Like I
Maybe
feel like
that
it's like
giving it their
somebody's
all.
nephew that they
Uh-huh.
hired. Yeah, it's just like a bunch of nephews that are working there, bro. So you have like 20 devs that work really hard and like listen to feedback and go ham and make all these amazing quality of life changes. And then you just have 80 nephews that are like, oh, we removed a rock from the auto path in southeastern Sylvia, and like that's their work for the week, and they're just fucking collecting the paycheck.
Honestly, at this point, I believe about anything because the answer they're giving us doesn't make sense. You know?
You guys want to talk about some other games?
Sure.
Doke V, baby. Did you guys see the
Cool.
trailer?
I've not seen a trailer for it. I saw
I
the original
did.
one.
Oh,
Is it good?
bro, you gotta go watch it. It's so good.
Apparently, they're saying it's not an MMO anymore.
It's still kind of an MMO.
It's a multiplayer online adventure battle
massive game.
Yeah,
So,
it's like
so
an
an
MMO, but
MOM.
not
It's
MMO.
an MOM.
MOM.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll like queue into like an instance where you run around town shooting Legos at people, and there's like 48 people who can join or something. Yeah, I don't know what form it's gonna take, but it looks dope.
I'm gonna play it, dude. Fuck it.
Hell
If it
yeah.
ever comes out, I'll play it. Why not? I'm starved for shit to do. Fuck it.
We don't have like any information about when it's coming
can't-
out, right?
I can't wait till I get my early login reward from DogeV and it gets me a hat and BDO. It's gonna be so cool.
Dude, they wouldn't even do that for Shadow Arena. You think they're gonna do that for Doke V?
I'm depressed they don't do more of the like cross contamination, because that's like
It's
the best
so
part about a
weird.
game. It's like the best part about games that make multiple, or companies that make multiple games, is like getting like some token. Like in Diablo, I didn't care that I pre-ordered WoW, but when I went to go play Diablo 3, I was like, wow, I got this World of Warcraft pet. Cool. Like it's just nice features.
I don't know why there wasn't a Pearl Abyss launcher with, where you can like cross contaminate all your different games.
It would get people to play the other games so much.
Yes.
Well, same thing with Riot. I don't know why Riot hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
Kind of a mistake. Personally, I think so.
Bro, you can tell this is the exact same engine as Black Desert because it has all the same like little weird graphical bugs. I like it though. It looks pretty good.
I'm looking forward to it.
I thought it was supposed to be like a Pokemon Catch-em game.
It is.
Yeah, I think it is. You collect little like Lego friends.
It's like Korean K-pop, but now it's kids and you catch Pokemon.
It's like Tim
Dude.
Tim, but with the social aspect to it. I don't know if you guys remember that Tim Tim game that came out.
It's like almost like they're world bosses or something you're fighting. It's not. Yeah, it feels like.
Yeah, that's why I feel like you might be able to like queue into an instance where there's like a few dozen other people in that area or something. I don't know. Maybe it'll be like GTA servers.
You're supposed to have like 4 of these little Pokemon creature things.
Dude, open worlds, like 100-man Pokemon Lego shooting
There's
servers.
no way
Let's
they're
go.
gonna have 100 people in this,
Let's
bro.
go.
It would die.
Okay, even if it's like 24 people.
Yeah, maybe.
Sweet.
I don't see very many different creatures. Does the gameplay version of this have more creatures?
I don't know. I don't think we know anything about it.
Yeah, they haven't really told a lot.
Do you guys think that the game is going to have chat? Like actual chat? I feel like it's all just going to be like canned messages.
Really?
I don't think you're going to be able to talk. Yeah, because it's like a kid's game, right? So I feel like they almost like have to do that nowadays because of, weirdos.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude.
I think it's just going to be single player with an online mode. Like you can play with like 4 of your buddies.
Oh, you think that's it? Just like 4-person co-op and that's it?
Because if you can have 4 Pokemon and you can have all these special effects and everything, like I mean, you gotta think that for 4 people, that is what, 16? Is that right? Did I do math right? Yeah, that's 16 little creatures running around plus 4 characters. That's 20 characters running around. All being able
BDO
to
has wizard pets, right? It's kind of.
I guess it just really depends. If it's like turn-based, like Pokemon is, then it's probably not very intensive. But if it's not turn-based, then that's kind of like a completely different thing, right?
Man, they have so many crazy.
Yeah, no, it's not turn-based. It's clearly an action combat game.
Yeah, they have so much. I don't know what you wouldn't call it. They have so much mobility in the game, where you're flying, like you're driving a car. Now you're riding rocket skates. Now you're like using this thing to fly through the air with an umbrella and stuff. They have a lot of different like ways of getting around the game world. They have a jet ski.
It looks completely social game, dude. So I'm telling you, like, I think there's no way it's not like massively multiplayer with like different hubs and places people hang out and fish and stuff. There's no way.
They have BDO housing in it. That was one of the things they initially showed off in their trailer.
Yikes!
I can't wait.
Hopefully they've iterated.
I can't
on
wait
that a
to
little
hang
bit.
out in my Doke AV house while I'm waiting for my Olin's group to go.
Okay,
Right.
if they do it like BDO mobile housing, then I'd be more on board.
That dude, I would love BDO mobile housing and BDO, dude. That stuff
true.
was so
good. They
so
solved
good.
housing, dude. They solved housing.
It was perfect. It's perfect.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of people in my chat are like complaining that it's a kid's game. I don't like that you have to play as a kid.
Aren't all
You guys have
games
never
kids'
played a game where
games?
you're a kid? You never played Pokemon? You never played
never
Hollow
played
Knight?
Kid?
Maple Story is still one of the like top 5 played MMOs in the world. And look, your characters are fucking kids.
Yeah, it's only weird when it's like
Whoa.
Genshin Impact and the kids are wearing lingerie. That's when it gets
True,
weird.
actually.
And that's so
Half your
weird.
chat probably plays Genshin Impact. Dude.
True, also true. Hypocrites.
It's crazy.
I know half of mine does, so I can make the comparison.
Yeah, ever heard of Zelda? A little lad named Link. He's like 9. Ever play as him?
Wait. He's not 18? I'm just kidding. I think, looking at the gameplay and stuff like they have in there, it seems like they have a single player campaign. It gives me the exact same feeling that I got watching Crimson Desert. It's like there's no way this is not a cinematic like a cinematic take on from the main storyline. Because like the camera angles in this and stuff like this is not like gameplay camera angles. They're like they zoom out behind your character, or like you're like locked onto a mob or something like that, right? Like it's clearly like a cinematic experience.
No, I think it's combat. Some of it is cinematic, but there's definitely gameplay in there. That's the only reason I got hyped. I wouldn't get hyped off a pure cinematic trailer. That's a scam.
And the graphics aren't like BDO tier graphics of like detail. So like I don't think it's gonna be. It doesn't seem like it would be as intensive or as bogging. Like
Well, if
server
it's not
bogging
even an
shit.
MMO and they're only going to have 4 people in one area, then they can be way more crazy with whatever effects they want to put in there.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely has.
Do you guys think
video
we're ever
lighting.
going to hear something about Plan 8? You guys remember that shit?
Well, they
Can't wait, dude.
on their last
Is that the mech shooter thing?
Yeah.
they
You augment your arms.
on their investor report they said that 2021, right? They wanted to have Crimson Desert out. Then 2022 they wanted to have Dookie V, and then 2023 they wanted to have Plan 8. And so they want basically the idea was like one game a year was their idea. I think it's going to be way delayed, right?
Nah, Crimson already got delayed.
Yeah, Crimson already got delayed, and I think this game is probably going to get delayed also. I think it's also very likely this will get delayed by a year or 2. It looks a lot more complete than Crimson Desert does, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like Crimson Desert didn't look like it didn't have near as much of this gameplay that this game does.
So I want to ask you guys something different. So China recently did this thing this week.
Yeah.
Where they
Holy
passed
cow.
they passed a law that makes it so that anybody that's under the age of 18 can only play 3 hours of video games a week.
A
What do you
week.
guys like think about that?
It's a specific
week.
3 hours too. It's like 8 to 9
Yeah.
p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like super specific. And if you play outside of those hours, the company who owns the game can get in trouble for letting you play when it's not that time.
Man, China's awesome, dude.
Bro,
Like, that's
I'm moving to
crazy,
China.
dude. Because like I watch some like esports and stuff, and like Reddit was blowing up about it because it's like, bro, like Chinese
you know-
players are like the best in all the games. Like, what's gonna happen now?
Do you also know that we have the last Dalai Lama that there will ever be? Because of like the China stuff.
What?
So the Dalai Lama has a co-partner called the Panchen Lama, and the Chinese government kidnapped the Panchen Lama like 20, 30 years ago in the 90s. And the way that the Dalai Lama works is that the Dalai Lama and the Panchen Lama find each other's reincarnations every time they pass away. And because they've captured the Panchen Lama, you know, the Dalai Lama has no idea when to search for the Panchen Lama because he doesn't know if he's dead or not, because the CCP government like captured him and
What in the world are
no
we
idea if he's dead
talking
or
about?
not.
What?
Isn't it crazy? So there's never going to be
I'm
another
very
Dalai
lost.
Lama.
I don't know
It's
what
crazy.
this llama thing is.
Dalai Lama is like a cultural religious symbol in like Chinese culture. It's all about Tibet and like the erasure of Tibet in China right now. It's really, really sad.
Oh, I guess I guess I'm supposed to be more culturally sensitive. I didn't know what this was.
I just
That's
think it's
amazing,
fucking
bro.
crazy, dude. Like 3 hours of video games a week if you're under 18. Like, what the hell?
It's because the people in control like a very traditional view. They thought their men were getting too feminine, so they started putting young men into like training like organizations to make them like more fit and like more masculine. To start doing like a masculine campaign with ads and stuff.
Well, the thing that I saw is they were like comparing video games to modern day opium, like a modern day opium
Yeah.
epidemic.
Well, they are, right? I mean, you get addicted
Yeah.
and then you don't live up to your potential and you waste your life, you know, chasing after items in Black Desert instead of curing cancer and figuring out dark matter. Yeah, I mean, this is a
Yeah.
common story. We've all been through it.
Yeah.
And that's why they added the limit. Yeah.
If I never discovered video games, I would have solved cancer at least 3 or 4 times. I mean, everyone knows this, right?
True.
Yeah.
I think that's someone was saying, I was watching a video from Bellular, and it's interesting because apparently Tencent is probably worried about that. It makes a lot more sense why Tencent, was trying to invest into, Riot Games and has invested heavily into like Path of Exile. Because they're, honestly, their demographic can't be the Chinese anymore because they're not allowed to play games, and they probably foresaw that coming, I guess. So it makes
Those games are huge in China. I definitely think they anticipated the Chinese player base when they
Yeah, the
went after
Chinese
those
League of
games.
Legends player base is insane. It's like more
Yeah.
players than NAEU and these
Well,
minor
Chinese
regions
PoE is
combined.
like your pet's loot for you and shit. It's got like all this crazy pay to win stuff.
Well, I think the thing is they're like the demographic audience like right now is they're gamers because you were gamers as kids. Like the reason we play games is because we played games as a kid, and then we grew up and we kept playing games. And like I feel like if you don't have that in China, the next generation just won't play near as many games.
Well, it's only online games. You can still play regular games. They haven't reached an authoritarian state yet where the government is like monitoring your Nintendo to see if it's on or not. It's just online games. So it's
You're getting
not
close.
like
I'm
it's
trying
not
to
like they
figure it
just
out,
can't.
dude.
Yeah, I mean that might be the next step, but it's not like you just can't game. You just can't do online games, which I mean, I don't know, dude. It's obviously like I'm not in favor of like far-reaching authoritarian measures, but at the same time, like playing an MMO when you're 15 years old is a little. It's a gray area, I think.
I don't know. Like,
Would you guys want your kids playing BDO when they're like 13 or 14?
Dude, I'm not giving my kid a phone till they're like 15, dude. People's minds are friggin' melted by the technology we have and the access we have. There's no way my child is getting a phone for most of their life. Not till they're an adult, dude. I mean, the kids
Well-
on social media, TikTok, everything, it's just melting kids' brains. They have never had to use their brains for anything ever. And they grow up with these crazy social problems and they have no idea how to act like a human being in society. It's insane.
that
No
is
way.
actually becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger issue.
I don't know, dude. This is kind of getting the territory of like where Grand Theft Auto makes like psychopaths and killers. Like I don't think just because you can shoot people up in Grand Theft Auto, it makes you go shoot people in real life.
Well,
right?
I don't think video games do that. I don't think video games have anything to do. It's just technology in general and the access.
But
to
I will agree that
those phones.
that like the early exposure of kids to technology is kind of like a weird one, right?
Turn
Because
them
like
into a robot, dude.
nowadays it's like, oh, my 2-year-old's annoying the fuck out of me. Here, take this iPad. And go
Well,
away.
I think the underlying thing there, and I think when you said social, I think that's the key word because the way you learn to interact with other people and tolerate their differences, right? In like grow up and be like mentally strong and stuff like that is by having those interactions at a younger age, so that when say for example you never had somebody yell at you for your entire life, and then by the time let's say you're 15 or 16 and someone yells at you for the very first time, you'll probably have a mental breakdown, right?
Mental breakdown. I mean, Black Mirror has done plenty of episodes on this exact thing. It's a real thing that people just aren't exposed to the reality. I mean, just look at online Twitter politics and like the people that like take part in the discourse that genuinely believe that like communist America is the way to go, and they can't wait to like that reality set. Like they can't wait till we're in communist America. It's like people just don't live in this reality anymore.
And he
like,
has song
at
subs
all.
in chat.
Right? Oh my god, it's not even a joke. Imagine advocating for the stuff he does as an online Twitter like politician, but yet also or politicist, whatever, but also buying a $3 million home in California.
Whoopsies. I thought property was theft.
Holy cow! Right? It's like it's all just virtue signaling, and people are fake as heck. They're all just
okay. But here's the question:
people.
Does limiting online gaming solve that at all? Because I feel like a lot of that is coming from social media. I don't know if it's like maybe when I think of limiting gaming or like gaming that rots your brain, I definitely feel like if you're just playing like 12 hours a day of Fortnite or League, it's probably not good for you, especially as a kid. But at the same time, like there's some games
of society before video games, and there will be degens of society with video games. That's not going to change much of anything.
I think.
Well, there were some games that I played as a kid though that I felt like were massively important to my development. Like playing Ultima Online as a 9-year-old objectively made me like smarter and more prepared for the outside world. But that was a completely different environment than like League of Legends,
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I agree. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think that there comes the main thing is our current generation, our parents didn't play video games. And so because they didn't play video games, or they didn't play video games near as much as we do at the very least, that they didn't know how to educate their kids on the upsides and downsides of that. And so I think when our generation has kids, we'll know what those upsides and downsides are and be able to educate our kids better on like, hey, like you need to be able to talk to other people, and so you need to spend some time like going to this party so you can learn some social norms, you know.
You think so? I think our kids will be living in VR, dude.
I
You
do.
think these
VR
gamers
for the
are
next
getting
5 to
laid,
10
bro?
years is gonna get crazy,
Dude,
dude. Yeah,
we're
we're
gonna have
gonna
COVID
create
24 by then. You're not gonna be
there's
allowed
gonna
to go
be
outside.
sex. There's gonna be sex robot virtual reality stuff, dude. Like, there's so many augments already
Yeah.
being made, like in Japan. Like,
And the
it's
thing
gonna
is,
be crazy.
just like our parents didn't know how to teach us about video games at all, there'll be the same challenges that we won't know how to teach our kids, because technology is advancing so quick that we can't have iterations on generations learning how to teach their kids about the upsides and downsides of that, right? So it's going to be, there's going to be another set of challenges that we won't be able to teach our kids properly on, because we didn't experience those challenges ourselves, whether that be social media or TikTok or whatever the next thing is, right? We won't be able to teach that. But I think the important thing is there that at least on the video game side, video games are not going to change dramatically, even if you go into a VR space, right? The fundamentals aren't going to change, because the difference in wearing a VR helmet and not talking to anybody and sitting on my PC and not talking to anybody, they're effectively the same socially, right?
Dude, UO may as well have been VR back in the day. Holy shit. I
Back
was so
then,
immersed
yeah,
when I was a little
I
kid
bet it
playing that game.
was so immersive, dude.
I mean, I think we can all agree that there is a darker side of gaming that people get addicted to, and it stunts their growth as a person.
Yep.
But I think we can also agree that it's not the government's job to unilaterally come in and tell you what you can and can't do with your life.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, not every person has to be
China being
involved, though.
China, right?
There are
Yeah.
people that have to be cogs in the machine, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's a really strong point there. Is like I don't think it's the government's job to step in. I do agree with that. I think that's the job of the parent to decide what they think is good and not good, and then when the kid grows up, they can decide for themselves. And I think that's what the way it has been for years on different topics, and it's the way it should probably continue to be.
Yeah, I do think it's way more of a parenting issue than a gaming issue.
Yeah. And every parent.
Some people don't have parents though, so the government feels the need to step in, or their parents are there but they're not there. It's true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I just don't know why people have kids and then like don't have the kid. Like they have kids but then like don't want any part of the experience of it. Like they want like 5 to 10, 15%, but then they're like, all right, I don't want anything to do with you. Here's a video game, here's a television, here's school, here's college. Like,
well, it's an addictive cycle, right? Because if the parent is addicted to media consumption, right, whether that be TV, Netflix, video games, fill in the blank, then they aren't going to be able to spend time doing those things. So they're going to get their kid addicted to one of them so that they don't have to spend time with the kids, so they can spend time watching the media and consuming the media. And
yeah, how come China's not limiting TV? That would be a base change.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you can look at that because there's plenty of people who just sit in front of TVs and watch TV all day, but people never vilify that, right? And it's just because it's just a difference in opinion, right? It's effectively the same thing. You can sit in front of a TV and do nothing all day.
Yeah, just wait till all of us youngins are in power, dude. Things are gonna change.
Yeah, I'll get this all sorted out.
Dude, the fact that like some of the U.S. government's still run by like 80 to 90-year-olds who were like alive during like every war has been kind of weird. That's kind of weird.
Well, the crazy thing is though, is that like I don't think it's really gonna change all that much, because those old head bigwigs, like they just kind of get their buddies in. So it's like I don't really think it really changes, because like people just brainwash their own kids and the people that come after them and just like continue the cycle.
Nah, you guys are crazy.
100%.
We're all waking up right now. We're rapidly waking up right now.
Well,
big changes are coming.
I do think it right now. Like when you have to explain to a congressman, when you have to explain to a congressman what a phone is, like,
oh my god, yeah. Have you seen some of those things where they have the court cases and they have to like literally explain what it's just crazy. What is a smiley face? Like they don't understand how like things work in reality. It's
Dude, when that
It's
senator
so
was
weird.
asking Zuck how they made money, like he didn't know how Facebook made money, one of the most legendary moments in
Oh
congressional
my
history.
God, it was so crazy. They just don't get it. They just
Yeah.
live in another world.
So
And it's like,
the good thing is the next generation will at least be able to know what that is. We won't have that barrier.
Will we though? We're gonna be like confused by the next TikTok. We're gonna be a bunch of 60-year-olds sitting around. So
Well-
how does this app make money?
I think the next generation is going to be socially unknowing, right? We're going to be socially deaf. So we're not going to be deaf in the terms of like what's going on, but we're going to be deaf in terms of understanding the proper choice
people won't
socially.
trust people. People won't trust people to give any legitimate information. I mean, we're already in the age of misinformation, and it's taken so long for any of these websites to like decide whether or not they're okay with misinformation of like information. It's crazy that it's even a
Oh, are you
stance
pro
that has to be a
censorship?
thing.
This is gonna get weird.
I don't think that people should be allowed to be brainwashed by people with money.
Oh, and who decides what the brainwashing is?
I mean, false information, things that are factually
and
wrong.
who decides if they're factually wrong?
The
People with
government.
money.
Ooh, that gets weird quickly. I don't know about they sound in a little bit like the Chinese government right now, Blonde Bear.
Well,
I'm not changing reality unless I want to. Right?
I
think,
mean, but the idea that you have a firmer grasp on reality than other people who are exercising the same processes and the same autonomy is
I think there's more harm to people by like spreading false information because people will actually believe it because they don't know any better. Than to
assuming you actually have access to what's true and
to what's
false.
factually true, right? You have to have a non-biased, out-of-party agent,
which doesn't exist.
Well,
unfortunately, it won't. Yeah.
So
I mean, in a perfect world, right?
I actually think this comes down to a really simple solution. It sounds like it's really complicated. We have rating systems for movies. We have rating systems for video games. There just needs to be a rating system for the trust of the website. And so you have different criteria that would be set up for it, and you just have a rating when you go to the website at the top right or something, and it'd be like this website offers lots of fake information, right? And it just give you like a rating on it, and it would be updated every so often. And that would be a trick.
Get weird.
It would be.
But who gets to decide what that rating scale is?
Maybe we should go back to talking about video games. This is
well, tying back into video games, right? The PEGI just got updated in EU. That's the EU rating for how old you have to be to play a video game. And so PEGI 18 is now includes anything that's gambling, but it has to be like a casino type game, right? So it has to be like a slots, or it has to be, so it's not going to catch games like Bless Online or BDO, but it is a step in that direction. And I think that, that type of thing being applied to socials, it allows people to make the choice for themselves and be slightly educated on the topic, right? It gives you a baseline education on the topic. And so that's where I think people, because parents don't know anything about video games. That's why they need PEGI 18, because they're like, oh, that has gambling on there. Oh, well, I don't want my kid playing gambling. None of this. And if you went to a website and it said occasionally has fake news, you'd be like, oh, I'm not going to go to this website. I'm out of here, right? And so it allows people to make. The goal is to allow people to make the choice themselves and educate based on the education you're providing them.
I think it's utterly naive to think that these censors and these people who would be giving the ratings about what's false or what's misinformation are actually well-intentioned, unbiased agents and are not just part of pre-existing power structures that are there for their own means and nothing else.
Sure,
it's like the peak of naivety to me. Whenever people go actually want more censorship, especially like institutional censorship, it just blows my mind that that's still a position that people have after seeing the history of the last 100 years.
Well, I'm not saying, I don't think the PEGI system is censorship, right? I don't think that's what that is. Like it's a means to allow people to educate themselves to make their own choice. And I'm all for people making their own choice.
In theory. In practice, of course, that's not what it is. None of these agencies are what they are supposed to be in the ideal world. The world's not ideal. Yeah. They're all corrupt. They're all on somebody's paycheck. They all have their own ideologies and their own ways of viewing things.
It's the lesser of two evils, right? Would you rather have websites that can have fake news unlimitedly?
Yes.
Or would you rather have
I don't think the general population is so just gullible and retarded that they're gonna believe everything that they.
I do. I've seen.
I just don't.
Well, right now,
So
the
who's
Amer-
gonna go in and fix? So you're gonna be the one to go in and set them straight? Like,
Well,
come
No, I
on,
just
You
think
really?
can't.
that's
You
the way it
actually can't.
is.
You actually can't pull these people out of their fake reality.
You
That's
can.
that's
The way you
problem.
do
You
it is
can't,
by letting
bro.
them have free
No.
dialogue. Yes.
No,
want-
you can't.
you want to
the
know?
cure, dude. The cure to this type of insanity is dialogue. It's not
So,
just forcing
They don't
people to
even
go
wanna
deeper and deeper into the
participate.
dark web
Well,
to
okay.
have their weird opinions.
There's two sides to this, and we have to make sure that we express both sides properly. One side is the government is super evil, right? And they're going to do mean things. And the other side is websites are super evil and they're going to do mean things. And you have to look at what happens, right? So if you do one extreme, you have a totalitarian society where they kind of control everything, and then what they say is truth, right? And if you have the other side, you have extreme fake news where wars occur because you're influencing people on social media. And that's what's happening in Africa right now. There's some African countries where Facebook will be like, hey, we're going to push a whole bunch of ads to them. And they actually like had the entire riot happen because a government was posting fake information online to the people who had phones. And it just caused the entire riot in the entire country because the country wasn't a stable country. And like, there's two different sides to that, right? One side is like you have fake news can influence people on a massive scale, and the other side is you have a government that has way too much control, and neither one of those is good. And so the goal is to find a middle ground on it, just like everything, right? You can't have the temperature too hot, and you can't have it too cold, or you'll die, right? You can't survive. And so, and the same thing is true in any topic, right? There's a middle ground you have to find. You can't go for complete uncensorship, right? And you can't go for complete censorship either. There has to be a middle ground on it. And I don't know what the correct answer is, to be clear, but
I think
you
we can
know
all
there is a
agree
middle ground.
on. I think we can all agree on general rails, like no calls for violence, and no death threats, and no
Okay.
like videos of beheadings. I think there's very clear common ground that everyone has. But the idea that any of these people, whether they're in the government or on Facebook or anything else, that they have access to the facts and the truth to the extent where they can shut down other people's ability to even dialogue about those topics is fucking absurd to me. And I don't see how we could have any common ground if that's a position that someone's taking. Like, that is
I
literally
didn't
just
say that, though.
tyrannical insanity.
I didn't say that, though. I just said, like, put a little rating on the top of the screen that educates people. I don't think that's telling people what they can and
Okay,
can't
if
say.
you want to put a stamp, if you want to put like the Twitter misinformation stamp on stuff, but then let the post remain, I'm fine with that. Sure, they can mark,
Yeah.
they can mark stuff however they want. I don't give a fuck.
It's
about
the same
that.
thing with video games.
People
right?
will just ignore it like they always do.
You can make a the most obscene sexual game in the entire world, but you can't. No one will buy it, right? No one will buy it. No one will sell it on their shelves because companies make that choice, right?
I think most of my chat would buy it. Yeah.
Doctors hate him. Learn this one tip now.
But yeah, like I think the overall, like I think that there's a middle ground to be found there, and I don't know what that is.
Any other video games we want to discuss?
Any middle ground
Utters
video
literally
games?
gifted me a game called Magical MILFs. Okay, so everything is out there. It's kind of a wild world.
I think I saw you playing it, Moreland. I bought it and been playing with some friends. Tribes of Midgard. Did you play that?
Yeah, it's fun for like
It's fun for a little
12
bit.
hours.
Yeah, it's fun for about $20 worth of playtime.
Yeah.
I've just got it and been playing with some friends. It's pretty neat.
Is it a
It has a
$20
lot
game?
of potential as a
Yes.
like they just haven't really like fleshed it out as a
Fleshed it,
roguelike.
yeah.
Like none of your progress really feels meaningful.
Definitely. I could definitely see the potential for sure.
One of my friends compared it to a Warcraft 3 custom map, and I feel like that's like the perfect description of what that game is. It's like a solid Warcraft 3 custom map.
That's interesting. I like the idea of that. Like maybe if they could go 2 different routes, right? They could make it where people can like create their own content out of that. Or they could go with
It's sad that most games don't have this like Warcraft 3 mode or this Halo mode where these game companies are actually scared of people making games in their games. Whereas that's like the birth of so many fun, unique things. Like people are even going back to Warcraft 3 to play. Like I've seen Dyrus, I'm a Cutie Pie, Soda Pop, and play like the Warcraft 3 soccer mode, and I'm like,
Yeah,
It's just
I still
crazy
play
that like
Warcraft 3 customs, Pumpkin
people
TD.
genuinely love this. Yeah, the tower defense stuff. Like, it's so crazy that like these game developers aren't really making that. Like Roblox, I think, is the only example of a current modern game that is just letting players do whatever the fudge they want. Like right now, Roblox
mean-
is the craziest adaptive game. It's like Gary's mod for children. It's nuts.
I mean, that's the only way the only reason Skyrim's been able to re-release the game every 6 months is because like the mod community is carrying the hell out of that game.
I just wish there were more of those styles of games, and I feel like the developers just don't really release the resources too much for games to just like, hey, what if the game had this? And they're like, huh, actually made it a better game, and I would buy it and play it on that mod.
Well, Blizzard even went kind of out of their way
Oh,
on
Blizzard's
Warcraft 3
psychopath.
Remastered to basically tell
Blizzard.
people like, if you do come up with anything good, we own it, so don't bother.
Blizzard's
It's
the
like-
most psychopathic company that like was the cool. It's like Arcadum. He was a really cool guy, and then he gets all this stuff revealed, and he's like, "Oh my god, he was a monster all along." It's like that's him right now.
Yeah. I don't. Do you think they were a monster all along? I feel like they became a monster.
Arcadum, definitely, dude. That kind of
I thought-
behavior doesn't. Oh, Blizzard. Oh,
Yeah, I thought we were talking about Blizzard.
it was great until the original guys left. When all the original guys started leaving, I think the power corrupted. Right, there wasn't
Yeah.
people that were like part of the original handful of guys that were like genuinely good that kept these people on a leash. And power corrupts. Always, always, always power corrupts, and it's fucking sad and depressing, and it's a shame. What a horrible representation of video gamers, but yeah.
My chat wants me to talk about people leaving Twitch for YouTube.
Oh, the Tim the Tatman thing.
I mean, YouTube's gonna.
It's
If
really
you do
that-
YouTube content, it's huge. YouTube is such on the growth path. Same with Facebook. Oh my god, dude, those things are gonna absolutely blow up in the next 5 to 10.
So the stat I heard was YouTube's audience is, for every person there is on Twitch, there's 200 on YouTube. That doesn't mean there's 200 people who are watching a live stream, right? But that's just the potential audience. So
your phone is installed with YouTube and like Facebook on it. Like you don't even have a choice these days. The outreach is incredible.
It feels like YouTube could have crushed Twitch 3 years ago
If they wanted to.
and they still haven't done it. So whenever I hear someone leaving Twitch for YouTube, I don't really get that worked up over it. I would love for Twitch to collapse and for YouTube to take over, frankly. I think that the whole industry is just in an utter state of complacence and stagnation. I would love for YouTube to actually come in and just knock Twitch down, but I feel like like I said, they've had the resources to do this for years. They still haven't done it, so I don't really know what they're waiting for. It wouldn't be hard, and yet they still can't figure out how to do it.
It's so weird.
I think the main thing is they want to take it slow and make sure that they don't ruin their YouTube platform in the process, right? Because they have the potential of, if they over prioritize live streaming, that's not good content, that they could literally just ruin their own platform.
I don't know, man. YouTube is 99.999% not good content. There's like, I forget the stats, but there's some crazy number, like billions of hours of content that are uploaded to that website every day. You'll never even see or encounter anything but the tiniest fraction of the content on that website. And so I feel like no matter how flooded it gets with live streaming, it's still not going to hold a candle to just the generic videos that are uploaded on a daily basis. It's really just going to be a drop in the ocean. Even if all of Twitch moved over to YouTube, it still wouldn't be as big as just the people watching, makeup videos.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, all right, let's say, because there's only so much screen space they can show you, right, on YouTube. Like, you open the app, you get 3 images. You get 3 YouTube videos that get shown to you. Well, if 2 of those end up being live streams and one of them ends up being a YouTube video, like, how much does that hurt YouTube? Like, that would obviously be unarguably worse for your average user, because the average user doesn't want those live streams.
Yeah, I think that they could just, they've got really smart algorithms that figure out what you want to watch. So I think if you're someone who watches a lot of live streams, then the algorithm devotes more of your screen space to suggesting live streams rather than videos. Yeah. And if you're someone who never clicks on live streams, then eventually it stops showing them to you. I think that Google of all people could solve that in a heartbeat.
Well, that's my whole point is, they have gotten to the place they have gotten to by slowly iterating on their current search engine, right? So making any sweeping changes is not something they're going to do overnight, and I think that's my argument, at least, to why they are slow to change to focusing more on live streams, right? Because they don't want to hurt themselves with live streams. They want to make it where it's, if you're that person, that it's there and available for you. So I think they're just taking their time with that. And I think, they acquired 3 streamers last year, and all of them grew in size when I went to YouTube. They have Dr. Disrespect, obviously. And then they also have, now they have Dr. Lupo and Tim the Tatman. And I think that the thing is that once they're there, their contracts that they have on YouTube, it's like 100 hours a month or something like that. So you don't end up to stream it much. So you have a lot more free time to spend with family, work on a secondary project, play other games in your free time, like whatever you want to do with that free time. And I think that's I think when people go to YouTube, they're not going to come back to Twitch because of that, though. And I think that's the real interesting takeaway from it.
Honestly,
right
though,
now-
I think. Oh, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, right now, for me, I'm using YouTube. Like the main reason that I make YouTube videos is to advertise my Twitch. People see my YouTube content and then they go, "Oh, this guy's got a live stream. I'll go check that out." If I could stream on YouTube already, if that was all integrated, yeah, it would be massive. I'm just waiting for the day where that's a viable move. I would much rather have all my shit in one place. Twitch is never going to have a viable video player or or proper discovery or any of the stuff that YouTube has. Like starting from scratch on Twitch is 1,000 times harder than starting from scratch on YouTube. Everything is better on YouTube. So I do feel like it's a matter of time, but like you said, they're going about it real slow.
Yeah, I don't think it'll kill Twitch either. Like I think for the next, I don't know, foreseeable future, right? I think Twitch will remain the dominant platform. And I think there's something to be said for like, Twitch makes kings, right? Like the person who's in the top of directory will remain the top of directory for the foreseeable future. And I think there is a place for, even if they become a secondary market, that there'll still be lots of money be made on Twitch. And I don't think it'll go anywhere anytime soon.
I think YouTube is more worried about just trying to capitalize on a chunk of the TikTok audience more so than the live stream audience, because you can see it in like the way that they've added, like the biggest thing right now is like shorts, little 10-second videos, and they added like an interface just like TikTok that only shows you 10-second videos. Like I think the live stream thing is just them dabbling in the waters more so than like worried about trying to get as a better live stream service.
That is a good example too, because I actually don't like the shorts. I don't enjoy them. I wish somebody could turn it off. And I'm sure there's people who watch YouTube who'd feel the same way about live streaming as well,
Get these live streams off my YouTube.
I just want to watch videos.
I just want to watch a video I want to watch. I don't want to wait and watch it.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think, like, one thing that I hope comes out of this is I hope that you can eventually stream on both platforms, because this would not be a problem if you could just stream on both platforms, right? The reason
you can if you don't have a contract.
Yeah, well, the thing
you can do a stream.
Yeah, the thing is though, like, in order to be a Twitch partner, you have to have a contract. So like, you're basically potentially giving up all that sub revenue and ad revenue if you choose to do that.
One of my favorite parts about being a partner with Twitch is that I'm not allowed to stream on any other platforms, but I'm still considered a contractor and they don't have to do anything like provide me healthcare or answer my emails in a timely fashion or acknowledge me as a human being in any way.
Being a partner is actually
they still have exclusivity. Yeah.
Yes,
it's amazing.
Being a partner is actually horrible. If you ever want to grow anything more than a Twitch partner, it's really, really bad. But everybody, wants to be like 100 viewer Andy when they start out. They're like, oh, I just want to hit partner. And then they're like, oh, I want to do so much more. And it's like, well, you're screwed because you became a Twitch partner. Like, you're done.
Yeah. I'm actually considering ending my Twitch contract, to be honest. Maybe not this year, but probably maybe next year, and just doing both, because I think it's not hard to send people over to like ask for tips or donations or whatever you want to call it, right? And do like a Patreon, I think that's actually.
I also don't think Twitch is really predisposed with worrying about 100 and 200 viewer streamers that are using Restream to stream on YouTube and Twitch. Because I mean, there's a lot of partners that do it that
True.
are like 500 to 1,000 viewer channels. Because I mean, Twitch is so worried about the top 1% or the top 1%.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So, I don't really think it would be even like biggest of deals.
I think it's one of those things where you're going to hear of people leaving and they're going to hear someone else leaving, and it's not going to be a big deal. It's not going to be a big deal until suddenly it is. And there's that like tipping point that gets reached.
Definitely.
And at that point, Twitch is just fucked. And I don't know when that's going to be or what that's going to take, but it's not going to be Tim the Tat, man. It's not going to be any one or two streamers. It's going to be
it'll be the small stuff. It'll be a lot.
Do you guys know what that Twitch protest day was last week or some shit?
So a day off Twitch.
What is that? What was that even about? Like I heard some people were talking about it, but
they have a website on it. I forgot what the main point was. I think the underlying premise is that people want the people who are at the top, they have to stream every single day, right? And if you're not streaming every single day, then you're technically losing on your audience, and your stream gets hurt. So someone else who is streaming 7 days a week is going to beat you on Twitch in the long run.
Auga designed to protest the recent rise in hate and harassment on the platform. I don't know if you guys have seen like the racist bot spams.
Oh yeah, the like hate raids.
It's to stop the hate raids.
Dude, I actually had that happen the first time I streamed FF14. It was so weird.
That's crazy.
There is a very dark side to the FF14 community. Like I
really like with racism and shit.
Literally, the first time I streamed FF14, I got like it was like raiding with like dropping like chinks and in-bombs and
stuff,
and like beaners and stuff. And I was like, bro, what the fuck?
It's like a secret mean society, I guess is what you call it. It's like they're not open.
You really think that's FF14 and not just random people going through different top directories?
It's probably not people in the community. It's just bots. People would like set up bots to like spam people's channels.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give them any more attention, but there's some when I was streaming WoW Classic, there were some bots that came through that directory that were real fucking wild, dude. Like just designed to do nothing other than like bad stuff. I think I don't think it has anything to do with the game. I think it has to do with where the directory is on Twitch.
No, I definitely think there's I think it's a niche audience. I don't think it's the core of the game, right? I just think it's a niche audience that's there. And maybe that's just maybe a lot of games have that. You know, I don't know. I guess
why would you think that the people making racist bots to go and spam people's chat on Twitch have anything to do with the people who are playing the game that's being streamed?
No, well, I mean, obviously, like they're watching that directory because of the popularity of the game, right?
Right.
But I do think that there is an underlying culture of Final Fantasy XIV that is like a niche culture that's weird. Like there's ERP, right? There's ERP in a lot of these MMOs, and it's just a niche audience that's just very, very, I think, very harmful to the game's demographic, right? And I think that same thing can be said of other niche. And as you get a bigger and bigger audience, right, that niche, even though it might be only 0.001%,
no evidence that has anything to do with the FF14 community. When Kerr started streaming FF14, it was right around the same time that like Asmongold started streaming FF14. It was one of, if not the top games in the Twitch directory at certain hours of the day. Of course, that's where the bots are going to target. I don't see any evidence that has anything to do with the game's community. And I'm not like some white knight for the FF14 community. I think there's a lot of obnoxious things about it. But to say that there's some problem of racists in the FF14 community because of Twitch raid bots is absurd. I don't see any connection there.
I'm not connecting those two. Those I think those two are two different topics, right? I think you're saying that they're the same thing, and I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I think that's just they're different. Like you would say like anime is like a gateway to pedophilia, right? Like that'd be something.
Whoa! Wait, what?
Yeah, that's something. And I think the same thing. I think the same thing can be true in games have a niche audience like that, right? And
so you think there's something inherent about FF14 that makes people more racist?
No, I'm not just racism, but just like
What is it?
insensitive, right? I think it's just because the game has such a cult following to it, right? When you have extremes, right? And people are so fan focused on the game, you're going to have extremes in other areas as well, right? Where if you have just a general like neutral game, you're not going to have as many of those extremes, right? It's sort of like irregularities, like I don't know, weird things attract weird things, right? If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm not articulating it very well. I wish I had a better, more thought out way of saying it.
Yo, anybody who watch anime?
Bro, there are some anime out there undeniably. It's
Undeniably.
like
I'm with
undeniably
Potion on this one.
Yeah.
But see, the thing about those anime is you can point very specifically and say, okay, here's a sexualized 13-year-old girl. That's weird.
Sure.
I don't see what you can point to in FF14
it's
where it's
easy.
like, oh, here's racism in the game.
Yeah. No. That's easy, right? Bunny girls, cat girls, like those things. It's just pointing to bestiality.
Those make people more racist?
That's pointing people to bestiality, right? And like, I think that,
Bro, what?
yeah, that's pointing people to bestiality, right? I like when people have that, people will actually dress up as like cat girls or cat women when they become attracted to that kind of thing, right? Like,
You guys ever watch Space Jam and remember like Lola Bunny before the new Space Jam?
Hey, Lola was thick though back in the day, bro. I ain't even gonna cap with you.
I'm just saying that's it's a thing.
And like you can even see that in Bless Unleashed, right? Like they have like bestial characters and they sexualize them, right? And like I mean, I don't know where you want to draw the line on. Everybody has their own opinion on that, but to say that it has no influence on negative outlooks or negative biases in a community, I think is just a little.
I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that bunny ears cause the N-word. I still don't see the connection between those two things.
No, I don't think there is a direct connection there. I'm just using that as an example, as one of the things that causes a niche audience inside the community to be negative, right? And I think the in-bomb stuff with that is just a community at scale, right? So if you take any community and you blow it up to 1 million people, you're going to have probably 1,000 people who are racist and get together.
People, it's not a problem with people, bro. We're talking about bots that are going around spamming the directories that have the most viewers because that's what you do when you have a bot and you want to cause chaos.
It is 100% communities at scale. You could either argue it's communities at scale on Twitch or communities at scale in Final Fantasy 14. Unarguably, if you get a large enough community, there will be a portion of people who are racist, unfortunately, and that's very unfortunate, right? But there's just enough people out there.
Those aren't the people making like race. Okay, I understand what you're saying. The bigger the game is, the more weirdos there will be to play it. Just statistically speaking, sure, but that doesn't mean that the game has some unique problem with racism because of bunny girls. So, that's like we're talking about completely different things.
Like I guess my point is there's two different arguments, right? It could either be the community or it could be a community at scale. And which one do you think it's more likely to be?
I think that if I'm making a bot on Twitch that goes around spamming the N-word, the way that I'm implementing that is I'm having the bot go to whatever directory has the most viewers, spam everyone in that directory, and then go to the next one that has the next most viewers and spam everyone there. I don't think it's really that more complicated than that. They're going to target the top directories in the website because that's where people are.
You're just thinking about at service level. Like, why does the person want to do that, right? There has to be a motivation for why to do that, right?
And the motivation's bunny girls?
No, I'm saying that. Why does it keep going back to bunny girls? Gosh,
that's what you said.
I'm trying to like. You're not really having a logical conversation here. You're not giving me due justice here. I feel like you're just circling back.
Okay, then I'll ask the question again.
You're circling back to the most absurd thing I said instead of having a logical conversation with me, and it's not respectful.
Then say something else. What is?
I haven't said bunny girls in like 15 minutes.
Okay, then give me something else, Potion. What is it about FF14?
I said communities at scale, and you just say bunny girls every time I say it. How am I supposed to have a conversation with you when you just say bunny girls every time?
I'm asking you the question right now.
Communities at scale.
This is your opportunity to correct me.
I literally just said, do you think it's communities at scale, or do you think it's the game directory? Right? Do you think it's the game?
Yeah, I don't think that it's the game.
Right. And so and then the other question is why do you think people are? What's the motivation for someone making a bot like that? Right? They're probably actually racist. That would be my assumption. I might not be correct there, but my assumption is that the person making the bot is actually racist.
They might actually be racist. They might just be an asshole who knows that racism is the most effective vehicle to cause harm online. And so that's what they do. I don't know if that is really the issue. I think there's always going to be weird, bad actors on the platform. And this whole protest, the thing that started this conversation, has to do with Twitch having inadequate responses to that, which they do, right? Why are these bots not taken care of? I think that's probably part of what the protest is about.
Sure, that's fair. Well, I mean, obviously having the bots taken care of, do you think there's anything Twitch can do as a platform to educate people on curing the base cause for why people are doing these type of things?
I would love it if Twitch would educate people. Any information that Twitch could give on how to prevent malicious bots from infiltrating your chat would be excellent. I don't know.
Yeah.
How there isn't a failsafe to stop the same message or mod check it. I don't know how that's not a feature.
You can put that in your moderation settings. You can do phrases or words.
Yeah, but they use special characters to change the effective words, right? So the idea would be to okay, if it's gonna spam a message and then 2, 3, 4 other people spam it at the same time, it's the auto mod would stop those messages and then the mods have to approve it. Why it doesn't do that for chat spam stuff like that? That isn't predetermined or pre-put in is kind of weird.
I have over 300 variations of the N-word banned right now. I had a dude who was determined to make it go off of my chat, and every time he'd make a new account and I just add a new one to it. So now I have one of the best N-word filters on Twitch, I'm sure. The guy made every
why do you have to do that though? That's the weird thing, right? Why isn't the platform smart enough to where that's the baseline?
Why can we do that in BDO and there's nothing stopping any of those features too?
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of weird.
I guess I'm actually kind of surprised that Final Fantasy isn't more offended by Twitch, right? I kind of feel like Final Fantasy would be putting pressure on Twitch to be like, hey, we don't like this behavior. Why are you allowing us on your platform? If you're going to continue this, we need to maybe remove our game from Twitch for a while or something, you know? I feel like Final Fantasy or other big games could be putting pressure on Twitch to make that, to kind of make that happen faster too.
I sadly think that Twitch doesn't care about much of anything. I wish they did, but
they're a big company. You know, it's as a big company, you tell, hey, Frank, go handle that, and Frank is like, hey, Pete, go handle that, and then Pete goes back to the original guy and they say, what happened? And nobody's done anything, you know. But it is an issue for sure. I think Twitch has definitely been. I feel like Twitch is in the position right now of being like the World of Warcraft of live streaming platforms. They've just been at the top, and they've been content to be the king for a long time. And I feel like either Facebook or YouTube will either of them will make a comeback and actually kind of topple them. Not because Twitch is a bad platform, but just because Twitch was lazy. Just like World of Warcraft has made bad decisions and was lazy for years.
Yeah, it's just legacy users. I mean, as soon as people get used to YouTube, it'll be fine, right? But right now, everyone's used to being on Twitch. It's the platform they know. It's what they're familiar with. They don't have a reason to leave. If the day ever comes where they do have a reason to leave, where all their favorite streamers are on a different platform, once they take the time to learn the other platform, I don't think it'll be that hard for people to make a switch. They definitely have some catching up to do still in terms of making the platform actually as good for live streaming, whether that's more access to emotes or whatever. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's just going to come down to breaking it's the advantage of being first, right? That's really what's been upholding Twitch for all this time.
Yeah, true. Twitch has been growing. Also, if you look at the data on it, I think Twitch has almost doubled in overall viewer base, which I think has been pretty interesting. And YouTube has actually shrunk recently. And I don't know if that, I don't think that's necessarily indicative of long-term success on Twitch or YouTube or anything, but it is interesting to see that Twitch is still growing. And I don't know if that's because people, like, where are those people coming from, right? Or is this because people are leaving YouTube, or is it because people are leaving Facebook or Twitter? Like, I'm kind of curious.
I think it's just more people in general engaging with, like, it's just kids who are, growing up and discovering the platform, or maybe even like the older audience that wasn't too. There's still so many people that don't use Twitch or YouTube or any of these things, right? And like as time goes on and as technology becomes more and more saturated in our lives, you're going to have more users as long as the platform is the one that people use. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't grow. I don't think it has to be like a zero sum thing where they have to necessarily come from a different platform. I think there's a lot of people who just are like, they didn't know about live streaming before and now they do, and now they're on Twitch.
Do we make any guesses on how long it'll take for YouTube or Facebook to become a more of a powerhouse, like be a fair competitor? Apparently,
5 years or less.
You think so?
I think 5 years or less, and I think VR is going to take a big hold in 5 to 15.
I think if YouTube doesn't do it in the next 5 years, then some new company will. I just can't imagine Twitch reigning forever.
TikTok, dude. TikTok's gonna do it.
TikTok live streaming.
TikTok live streaming.
Well, I guess there's two questions here, right? So live streaming in general, I think it's easy market for anyone to be the king if it's not related to gaming. But if it's gaming related, I kind of see Twitch as being the top gaming site for streaming, maybe forever. Like, I don't see anyone really touching that. Like, I don't know. I think that if you're a gamer and you were looking for hardcore gamers, I feel like Twitch would still be that go-to place for a long time. But if you want to watch like tech news or something, I could easily see YouTube or Facebook dominating that.
OnlyFans.
Well, who would be the person right now? Who would be a big company to do that? Who would like be able to step up? Google has YouTube. Facebook has Facebook streaming. Walmart, dude. Maybe Elon Musk. Maybe Elon Musk will make like a something for his Martians and Lunarians, and they'll need a website to do live streaming. I can't think of another big company, because is there another big tech company other than Apple? Maybe Apple doesn't really have a big online presence right now, so maybe Apple gets into that.
What about Epic Games?
That would be interesting, and they are the company who likes like being that Trojan horse into a market and type of deal. All right, I'm out of information here. What else do we have to talk about? We already talked about Lost Ark getting delayed. Yes, no, I forgot.
Yeah, we touched on it as far as I remember.
It's depressing.
Sad, dude.
Bus Unleashed did a huge dev letter, and it seems like they have the finger on the pulse of the game. They tend to be nerf heavy instead of buff heavy. They want to nerf everything that's a little overpowered. So they did they just seem like they have a really good understanding of all that. What's your take on that, Moreland, for the dev letter?
I'm pretty surprised actually at how decent of a job they are doing of like understanding the game's issues and what needs to be fixed. That's kind of the main reason I kept watching the game after console anyways, watching the PC release, because they kept delaying the PC release, and every time they did, they would say, oh, here's the issues that we're working on, here's the feedback that you've given us. And it was always like really spot on. Like with these other companies, watching New World get delayed, and then they release a new version, and some stuff is better, but a lot of stuff is just worse. And the feedback that they take is all over the place, and they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. Like with the Blessed devs, there's certainly still things that could use work, but it's very rare where I just feel like they're going in completely the wrong direction. I always feel like the progress they do make is very thoughtful, and that's one of the main things that made me want to try the game again on PC when it launched to begin with. So I still think the game has a lot of potential if they continue to do that. It does feel a little bit I mean, it feels stale for us right now, but I feel like we're probably in the minority in terms of like people who have 200 plus hours clocked already. I'd imagine most people are still kind of in the honeymoon phase with the game and aren't quite feeling like as burnt out as we are.
You guys did speed run it pretty hard, right? So like,
Yeah.
I
And the
think
problems we're facing they're all, they're quality problems. They're all like end game problems. It's not issues that, other than the UI. The UI I think everyone suffers from, but like a lot of the gameplay issues that we're having, only probably less than like 3% of players are at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think some of the things that their problems are like really easy problems to solve. Like adding more dungeons does not seem like a very hard task, you know?
Or adding higher versions of the same dungeons, even if
Yep.
they just scale them up and add better multipliers to the rewards.
Yep. I don't think that's like I don't think it's a very hard thing to do. Another thing would be like they have a lot of like high tier loot that's just worthless, and that's not hard to fix. You just change it or buff it or remove it, you know? Like all the things that they have in the game are pretty simple fixes. I think that, you know, Blessed Unleashed is probably a game that I'll come back like once a year and play for like a month, a good solid month, and like just see what they change, like the new blessings or new class or new dungeons, and just like because I feel like as a MMO player, I feel like I can learn a lot just from like how the devs are actually like what good game development looks like on an MMO, because this is not very many good examples of that. I mean, I can't really think of another one. So I think it's going to be really nice to go to a game and have something where I feel like they're going in the right direction. What does that look like? What kind of progress can you make in a year? You know, what kind of things are you going to change or add? You know,
I just like having an action combat game to play. And like after stepping away from BDO, you know, it's kind of between like Bless and New World right now for upcoming action combat games, and I know that I'm not going to care about New World after a month. Like there just isn't anything to do, and so Bless is always kind of there in the back of my mind. Like if they continue to update this, of course this is a game that I can come back to. I don't know if they could ever make it a game that I would like main day after day. But it's certainly a game that I could, easily get like sucked back into for a while when there's major updates. I definitely think it has that potential.
yeah, I'm curious. They have I don't know. I think probably what I'm going to probably do with it is probably do New World and then do half BDO, half Bless, something like that. Because it is getting to the point where I don't think I can full play it every day, but I do think there's a lot of people who want content for it, and I think there's a good opportunity there to like make YouTube videos, and like there's just so much stuff people don't know about the game, right? And
I think the game could definitely grow over time too, especially like after New World kind of comes and burns its fuse. There's going to be, I think there's a lot of people right now who are like, oh, yeah, New World's the next thing. New World's the next thing. And they're going to realize that it's not, and they're going to start looking around. So I think the game, has potential to grow over time, especially with Lost Ark getting delayed. Like people who just don't want to play a tab target game are still looking for something to do, right? Like not everyone can just go play FF14.
Tim Allen in shambles, bro. How dare you say New World won't be the next big
A lot
thing?
of people are going to be in shambles come the beginning of November when that game plummets in population.
Which is why Lost Ark should come out right then.
True.
actually, that'd be a really good time. You could release it in November, and then you can follow it up with an expansion to New World in like January, February. Be perfect, and you just have people flopping between both the Amazon's games. What is there anything else? Can't think of anything else. I don't have anything else in my notes.
Yeah, we've been going for a while. I think we can wrap it up. Do you guys have anything else?
That's pretty much everything I think that I can think of.
633 hours for the Merchant Ring so far on Olin's. Going strong.
Good luck.
You're almost there.
Or maybe not.
All right.
All right. Well, then that is going to wrap it up for this week. Kerr, why don't you let us know what you've got going on between now and the next podcast?
In terms of like BDO, I'm just like trying to make that Krogdalo water armor just to give myself something to do. And I need those secret songs, bro, but it's like 10 hours each because I threw all my old ones away. So I guess I'll be
Oh,
doing some
no.
underwater. Yeah. But that's about it. Just trying to get back into the swing of school and work and shit. What about you guys?
Blombear, can we guess what you're going to be up to for next week?
Merchant ring grinding. I think if whenever it drops, I'm gonna take like a nice little week off. The only other thing I'm looking forward to in the future is I've been reading some books, and I just finished American Gods, which is really, really good. Loved it. I'm sad the show got canceled after the third season, which was right at the end of the book. And now I'm reading Dune for the first time. I love Dune the
Ooh.
movie. I love the mystery and the story and everything. I watched the movie back in the day because it's so hyped up. It's like a cult classic because apparently it was a failure when it came out, I guess, because Star Wars was just too easy to comprehend for people. So I've been reading the book and it's fantastic, and I'm really hyped up about the new movie. So that's kind of like, other than, grinding rocks all day long, that's what I'm focused on.
Are you going to stream yourself reading it?
No, I've done that before, but
And the monster
That'd be
devoured his
pog, dude.
head.
it's just it's when I stream, everything's about my audience, and I'm answering questions and being helpful. Like, if I were to do something like that, maybe in another format.
Boshan, what about you? What are you getting up to?
I am going to actually try streaming this week consistently. That is my goal. I've been every week I'm here on the podcast. I'm like, I'm going to stream, and I don't do it, and I'm mad at myself now. So I normally take Sundays off, so I'm going to continue taking that off. And then next week's goal is to stream just consistently, like even just a few hours a day. Like I want to be consistent with it, especially because I want to stream New World, and about all my videos for New World are done. So I need to make like a whole nother batch of 30 videos the next month for my Lotion Shop channel.
Oh my god, 30 videos.
Yeah, it has. I think the channel has like some 60 or 80 videos, something like that. I have to go look up what it is. It's something crazy now, but I want to stream consistently, so that's my goal. We'll see if that happens or not. Time will tell.
Well, I will be playing FF14 for most or all of the week. I'm about to finish Realm Reborn and get into Heaven's Word today. So that should be pretty exciting. And then next weekend, whenever we're doing the podcast, Friday, hopefully, we'll probably be doing that right in the midst of the New World beta. So we'll be doing some early game New World runs, getting ready for launch, and that should keep us pretty busy for the next week. So that wraps up episode, what was this, 59?
59.
That's a lot of episodes.
It is.
You can still find this. We're still uploading to Spotify, right? Are we caught up these days?
I think we're 2 behind on Spotify, but I'll have that done and caught up this week.
Excellent. And then you can check for the VODs on. Do we have a video format that's uploaded anywhere, or is it just VODs pretty much?
YouTube.
Potion uploads it on YouTube.
We do get the full video on YouTube? Okay,
Yep.
Cool. All right, well then check that out, and we'll be back hopefully next week, Friday at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. That's usually what we aim to do. Sometimes it gets delayed, but that's where you can look out, and we will see you guys next time.